All right, so anything to ask? Anything from whatever we discussed? Comparative mythology. Yes, ma'am? Participant observation method. All right, so one question is comparative mythology. I gave this reference a little when I was talking about philosophy and sociology. And comparative mythology actually was the work of Max Muller, where what Max Muller did, he compared various religions of different time scale at different places. So say religion of Indus Valley time, religion of modern times in India, religion of modern time Europe, religion of old time Europe, and so and so. So, in comparative mythology, Max Muller tried to understand that how various religions of different times, how they are similar, how they are different, how they emerged, and so on and so forth. So this is what is called comparative mythology. Max Muller was the one who did it, right? And this emerged as a discipline subsequently. These days, many of them, like I told you, one example is Joseph Campbell, Hero with Thousand Faces, which tries to compare that how all religions are saying less or more the same thing. So when we say comparative mythology, it refers to comparison of religion with the scientific mindset. And all this credit goes to obviously Max Muller. But before Max Muller, there was another fellow, German anthropologist, Feuerbach. He was the one who tried to understand religion from a scientific perspective. Her question is about what exactly participant observation is. Participant observation is where the observer, whosoever is observer, is part of the population or the subject he or she is studying. So let's say I want to study a society, and in order to understand that society, I become part of that society and then observe it. There are two ways to observe it. That I'm observing from the distance. I'm observing from the distance. And the second way is that I am observing by being member of that society. When I'm observing from distance, there's always a problem that the respondents, those who are there, they will be a bit careful that somebody is observing. You know, the moment you know that somebody is observing you, your behavior gets changed. So as a participant observer, once you're observing them by being member of that society, then you can record it in more accurate way, in more natural setup. So most of the anthropologists and all, you can say, major studies of anthropologies were largely participant observation, where they stayed with the community, with the tribes and all. They tried to understand their institution by being member of that institution, and so and so. While in sociology, our approach is mostly non-participant observation, that we observe from the distance. But it does not mean at all, though we'll talk about in research methodology again, but as of now, it does not mean non-participant observation is bad. It all depends what you're observing. So if I want to know how students are performing in their examination, in their preparation, in that non-participant observation is fine. But if I want to know what students think about me, then probably participant observation will be better. So don't think in non-participant observation is bad, because this is the general impression might be coming in your mind. It's not bad. It all depends what you're observing. Fine. So participant observation is where you're part of the group and then observing it. Non-participant observation is where you're at the distance and then observing it. Fine. What else? Swastik is asking, can you please explain phenomenology and ethnomethodology? Yes, somebody was asking a question here. All right. So phenomenology and ethnomethodology, these are again approaches in philosophy and subsequently in sociology also, but we have not talked much about it as of now. As of now, I have only given reference of ethnomethodology when I was talking about Garfinkel while referring to common sense. That's it. As of now, we'll discuss it in detail, but what is phenomenology? That believes that it's not the act which is important, the meanings of the act is more important. So when you're observing something, don't just look at what is going on, what has happened, why that thing has been done is more important. So meanings, phenomenologists are those who give more emphasis on the meanings or the intentions of the action. So let's say someone has murdered someone as a mercenary killer that took money and killed, and someone murdered someone in self-defense. Both cannot be treated equally. While a positivist will find that someone has murdered somebody else, phenomenology says no. You should also look at the intention. You should look at the reason that why that thing has happened, the meanings attached to it. So when someone is killing someone for sake of self-defense, and when someone is killing someone as a professional, these two are two different things. While if you look at a positivist side, from simple observation, Mr. A has killed Mr. B. That's it. So that's why meanings are also important, is what phenomenologists highlight. And Weber is one who advocated it. So while discussing Weber, these terms will come. Ethnomethodology, ethno means the ethnic group where you belong to. Ethnomethodology says that whenever you are observing anything, whatever your cultural exposure is, whatever your background is, the way you have understood the things are going to be significant always. So whenever you see someone doing anything, now you tell me, I have already told you that when you saw someone, let's say Mr. A and Mr. B, they are fighting, they're talking. And what do you think what they are doing? What do you think what they are doing? On the basis of your understanding, you're understanding the situation, don't you? So you are understanding that situation on the basis of your general understanding. So this is how ethnomethodology is another branch in philosophy, in sociology, political science, which believes that whatever your exposure is going to have its bearing on observation. So all these things will come in research methodology, so don't worry about it, Swastik. But as of now, as you've asked, these are the initial meanings. Phenomenologists try to understand the meanings and intentions, and ethnomethodology tries to understand that how the kind of exposure you have, the kind of socialization you have. So whenever any act is there, so let's say, so what's your name? If Rohan, I hope you don't have any problem of using a name. All right. So let's say I'm doing something notorious. Now Rohan will do what? Rohan will put himself into my shoes and will try to understand that what exactly it means. But listen to me carefully. Rohan will be Rohan, not Sunil. And Rohan and Sunil have different exposures. So that's why in ethnomethodology, this is very important to understand. If Rohan is understanding Sunil with the Rohan's mind, this is prejudice. If Rohan is understanding Sunil with the Sunil's mind, this is observation. So uske liye pehle Sunil ko samajhna hoga. So that's how ethnomethodology talks about. So abhi just for in research we'll talk about. Don't worry, it's in detail that what exactly it is. Now Arshjot is asking ki common sense promotes status quoism. Status quo, that is STATUSQUO. Those who are not knowing, status quo is a phrase that means the current status. So what is status quoism? That you promote whatever current status is to be right. What is common sense? Common sense is, I told you that whatever we think locally. So if we think that is right and we are not questioning it, are not we promoting status quoism? We are promoting that, okay, whatever the existing order is good. So status quoism is a term which says is a mindset. Status quo is current status. Status quoism is that you support current status. So whatever is going on, so the way society is, the way males are behaving, the way females are behaving, the way teachers are behaving, the way students are behaving, If you believe that this is righteous because common sense supports it, then this is status quoism. Status quoism, right? So that's how we got, but I'm happy this term has been used by Andre Bete also. That's why asking question is important. So Andre Bete has used this term in his write-up that so common sense by its nature is status quoist. Status quoist, that means it supports the current status. So please repeat last paragraph. Common sense on last day. Your voice was buffering. You're expecting too much from me now. I don't have that pictographic memory. Uh, but yes, in the last para we have talked about, and that will be in synopsis. Don't worry, Amandeep. That will be in the synopsis. That what exactly I said in the last para. It was about that how Garfinkel's and other ethnomethodologists advocated that they are complementary, not just contradictory, because the way you observe is also dependent upon the common sense you have. So you cannot completely reject common sense while observing or while looking into the society. What is Arab Spring that led to renewal of interest in Marxist ideas? Let me finish the Marxism first, and then I will naturally talk about it. I have a separate discussion in Marxism, keeping the future questions in mind, that Marxism in 21st century. Of late, we have seen the way data control and the way some big data fishes are coming. It seems that Marxism is coming back. So those who were thinking Marxism has become irrelevant, like Harari wrote a book, 21st century, 21 lessons for 21st century, where he advocated that Marxism is becoming almost redundant now. A few days back, in one of his famous interviews, he said that I was wrong there. Many of the things are coming back. So we'll look into Marxism in 21st century also. But let me finish first Marxism, then it will be Arab Spring. You know what happened in Libya and around in the Arabic world, the way the protest started and which led to various types of revolution, which was class conflict. In fact, the similar thing happened recently in Sri Lanka. The way masses has attacked the president's house so that president has to run away is an example of it, that Marxism is not completely irrelevant. So we'll talk about it, don't worry. Sir, is being vicarious similar to being ethnomethodologist? No, but both the time you are believing on your perspectives, and we all are bound to believe on our perspectives. As a human being, whether you like or dislike, we are bound to. So not exactly, but don't worry, we'll talk about it. As of now, I just introduce a term, ethnomethodology. We'll discuss in detail that what it is, and one fellow, Harvey Sachs, what is his contribution into that. Fine. So moving further, yes. Census is a non-participant observation. You are not becoming part of that family. You are observing from the distance. No, as an enumerator, you are not the part of the population. You had been given the questions, and you have to ask. So questions are being asked like, "Are you married or happy?" So that was the first question of census. For those, just for information, those who are not knowing, when the first census was conducted way back in UK, 1801, this was one of the questions: "Are you married or happy?" So so that was the question. And by the way, so census is what? But her question is valid. Census is what? Census is a non-participant observation. You are not part of that population. You are working in the capacity of the state, and you go there and observe. Otherwise, so everyone is part of society. Then I'm saying the society you're studying, you are mix up in that. Fine. Yes. What else? In fact, this census is going to be very interesting. Just for information, as census has come in our minds, you should be keeping an eye that we are going to have 31 questions this time. 31 questions in the census, and it seems to be completely digital. So we have enumerators. Enumerators are trained by NSSO, and they conduct the data with complete objectivity. Complete objectivity, right? Yes. So what should be studied in society? What should be studied in society? From where you are getting? Are not you getting from common sense? So students respect teacher, question mark. Student respect teacher, question mark. Or you can say, do students respect teacher or not? This is something coming from the common sense. So and then we are observing whether it is there or not, whether it is changing or not. So whatever sociological inquiries you're doing, society is continuing, society is changing, family is continuing, family is changing, all that is based on what? Coming from the common sense. So it was common sense which says, perhaps it seems society, families are changing. Then people started doing the research. Is it really the case family is changing? Is it changing for bad? Is it changing for good? Is it both? And so and so. So common sense provided what is called subject matter on which research could be conducted. So from where do we get hypothesis? Hypothesis means something which is yet to be proven. You get it from your common sense only. So common sense says that student respect teacher. Now this is common sense. Now we can examine that what were those factors where students were respecting teacher, why it got changed, are they still respecting, or whatever. So whatever your inquiry is, whatever research is, isn't it coming from a common sense? So common sense provide hypothesis and also validates itself. So if after the research it has been found that yes, students are respecting teacher, isn't it getting validated further? So this way common sense is something which is providing hypothesis for research, and without common sense, from where the subject matter will come? What you will study then? What will study? Because you're studying the social things only, and any social phenomena is bound to have some commonsensical explanation. जो भी social phenomena होगा उसका कुछ ना कुछ commonsensical explanation होगा कि नहीं in that given society. And so subject matter is coming from society itself. That was what we were writing the other day. Making sense? Yes or no? All right, because your face is flat a bit. Achha, all right. Because yeah, your non-verbal communication tells me. I'll talk about non-verbal communication in TV hall. That speaks louder than what you think. So यहाँ से बहुत कुछ पता चलता है, just for information. आप पीछे लिख रहे हो या प्रिटेंड कर रहे हो लिखना, बिल्कुल पता चलता है. क्योंकि अगर आप लिख रहे हो सच में, तो आपकी आई और हैंड का मूवमेंट में कोऑर्डिनेशन होगा. And you're pretending, there will be mismatches into that. So no, a lot of things, by the way. So yes. अच्छा सर एक बार जरा AC को, and yes, do take care of your health because season is changing now. Yes, so so far we have understood in this chapter, entire chapter, that what is exactly it means when we say sociology and common sense, and has been frequently asked what is sociology and common sense. We have understood sociology with other disciplines, and before that we have also understood that how changes in modernity in Europe has resulted into emergence of various disciplines where humanity should be studied with a scientific mindset, and subsequently N+1 what you call sociology. I hope you have done it and you have done questions also. Now so do we have questions? So if you want, we can take a quick look on the questions asked, or should we continue further? Because you're no, what do you think? Questions एक बार देख लेते हैं quickly. Previous question paper है हमारे पास, if possible. Okay, in between, the next topic I'll take care is fourth topic, and I'm deliberately not taking second and third because most of you are from, let's say, non-humanities background. And keeping this in mind, once you know the thinkers better, then you could enjoy those topics more. So in thinkers, as we have 6 names, Karl Marx is there, Emile Durkheim is there, Max Weber is there, then we got what is called Talcott Parsons, Robert Merton, George Herbert Mead. One question which should come in our minds naturally, that why only these 6 names out of thousands of names? There must be some rationale. Why not other names? Why these 6? The reason is because each of them represent one or the other school of sociology. When I say school of sociology means perspective, the way you look at the thing. I've already told you that any given reality can be viewed in various ways. Somebody can look at like this classroom. Somebody can talk about structure function of this classroom. Somebody can talk about the inherent conflict in this classroom. There is inherent conflict also in this classroom. Someone can say that they are more interacting and eventually learning. So there are various schools, and each of them, if you see, Karl Marx is conflict fellow. Emile Durkheim is one who started structural functionalism. Talcott Parsons took it further. However, Max Weber is one who talked about phenomenological approach, anti-positivist approach. And then we got Robert Merton, which synthesized both. And then we got what is called George Herbert Mead, which talks about interactionalism. So the reason why these people has been picked up, because each of them are pioneer contributor, or in a way they are the one who started that school in a unique way. So each perspective, I have already told you on the day one, let me remind you again, that when we try to understand social reality, social realities can be understood by various perspectives. Remember how elephant is cylindrical, serpent-like and all. So in this class, anyone can say class is all about structure function. Anyone can say class is where students and teachers are having inherent conflict also. Inherent conflict. Somebody can say that classroom is a place where they are talking and eventually learning. Somebody can say that classroom is a place which is sum total of all these things. So considering all these, each one of them are responding in one or the other way. That's why they had been kept in your syllabus. Every year in paper 1, from these 6 thinkers, invariably, at least out of 250, you will see that 120 marks question has been asked. That means half of the paper. And that's why understanding thinkers is more than half of the journey done. That's why I'll say that pay all your necessary attention. Feel free if you are not getting what I'm saying. There is no wrong into that. And make sure that by the time we are done with the thinker, you are comfortable, you can answer the previous question paper, you can answer questions here and there also. You have ChatGPT, you can ask them ChatGPT to make similar questions to get your familiarity with the things. Don't experiment too much though, but then even once in a while having those kind of things not bad. Now first fellow in your syllabus is Karl Marx. Yes ma'am. Inherent conflict means something which is built in, part of the nature. It's part of the nature. Two friends, very good friends, dying for each other. And when something goes wrong, what they say? बताओ मैंने तुम्हारे ऊपर इतना पैसा खर्च किया था. मतलब जब खर्च कर रहे थे तो याद तो था. उसमें बोला नहीं था लेकिन याद था कि इतना पैसा खर्च किया. तो कैसे पता था कि इतना पैसा खर्च किया? How you could recall it? मैंने तुम्हारे लिए इतना किया and look what you have done. Isn't the conflict inherent? In this class also conflict is inherent. Our interests are different. So conflict theorists will say, teachers, I would like to earn maximum by lesser effort. You would like to get maximum by lesser payment. That's how inherent conflict. A conflict perspective will talk this way. I'm not saying they're completely right, but they are not completely wrong either. There is always inherent conflict. Always inherent. That's why even in very good days, keep this in mind. This may change. तो उतना ही बताइए जितना जरूरत हो. Otherwise, when you go in job, you'll come to know as an IRS officer, सबसे अच्छा information पता है कहाँ से मिलता है? Divorced spouse से. Exactly क्या चल रहा था, कहाँ, where the chances are. So always keep this in mind that even in very good days, this may change. तो सिर्फ उतना ही बताइए जितना जरूरत हो. Otherwise, that will be counterproductive to you. There is always inherent. That's why Sumner, याद है किसी को Sumner ethnocentrism? When I told Herbert Spencer and these kind of thing, William Graham Sumner, I quoted this man. He used a term कि most of the relations are what? Antagonistic cooperation. We cooperate, but there is always some antagonism also. So there is always some antagonism. Keep this in mind. So next time be careful. Don't get swayed away. No, that is what his advice is. So there is always some kind of inherent conflict everywhere. So this is what is called inherent, means something built in. Structure में ही हम कुछ कर नहीं सकते. It is in the structure. It is in the structure. It is very natural thing. Yes, let's take quickly the questions and then we'll move to Karl Marx. This is something from several sources. Now, look, uh, sociology emerged in Europe and flourished to begin with on social reformist orientation in the USA. This question was in 2013. First part is very clear, that how sociology as a discipline emerged in Europe on the onset of these things. Second part, now you know what we talk about when here you talk about what Emerson did, what was the American Renaissance, and how it contributed. So how various contributions in USA further has led to promotion of sociology. इसमें थोड़ी और क्लैरिटी आपको मिलेगी when I'll talk about Talcott Parson, who is eventually an American sociologist. So before I will come to Talcott Parson, I will give you some brief that how sociology has emerged in Europe and sociology has emerged in America with what mindset. So here, but as of now, the question first part is what happened in Europe and how sociology emerged. Second part is how American Renaissance has led to the emergence of sociology in USA. In such questions, again, in fact, we will work on it. हम इस पे काम करेंगे भी कि while writing questions, how to make draft and how to assign words. Like if this question is of 10 marks, in general, ऐसा कोई thumb rule नहीं है, but in general, in UPSC, 1 marks is equal to almost 15 words. This is the maths, simple maths. 1 marks is equal to 15 words. So 10 marks is equal to roughly 150 words. In 150 words, almost 80 to 90 words should be assigned to first part, and then 40-50 words should be assigned to the second part. That's how differentiation should be. उस पे भी हम काम करेंगे कि how let me first do a few things and then we'll work on it. This question should not be called here because this is something which is Talcott Parsons' explanation that how industrialization and family change, that is what is in 9th topic, systems of kinship. That how in Europe families started changing after industrialization. Talcott Parson wrote a complete article on it, but here might be because industrialization was there, that's why you had picked up that way. So this question is of chapter 9. Chapter 9, when we talk about what is industrialization and change in family structure, Talcott Parsons and William J. There are two names. The third question is, how had enlightenment contributed to the emergence of sociology? It's straightforward. You will talk about what is enlightenment. In such questions, what is enlightenment? What has been the factors of intelligence? Look, emergence of sociology has two visible things: the social conditions and the intellectual input. So Renaissance is intellectual input, and the social conditions like how urbanization was taking place, how French Revolution and such like things, in whatever way you say. But make sure that there's a fair balance, because question is more highlighting on what? How enlightenment has led to the emergence of sociology. So here more focus should be on enlightenment part, how what happened that time, how modernity has emerged, what has been the factor of modernity, and then albeit briefly, but in one paragraph, 2-3 lines, you should also talk about how there were social conditions prevailing supporting this, and then how various disciplines emerged, and finally how sociology emerged. Most of you have attempted this question, so not a problem. I hope making sense. How explain how sociology has emerged as a distinct discipline based on rationality and scientific temper. This is something clear-cut, bottom or modernity and emergence of so modernity was based upon what? Rationality, scientific temperament, reflexivity. So this is what you have to highlight here. Now again, I don't know why this question is kept here, but does collapse of functionalism and bankruptcy of Marxism coincide with the rupture of modernity? This question will be more clear once you understand what is Marxism, what is functionalism. And here you have to say that how there's a school called postmodernism. Postmodernism, when we believe that modernity must not be viewed the way we are thinking as a panacea of all the problems. In fact, एक हजरत है Ulrich Beck, थोड़ा सा आपको इससे अंदाजा लग जाएगा what question was actually looking at. Initially, when scientific development happened, technology came. it helped us. पहले लोग भूखों मरते थे, and then came green revolution. Then came green revolution and we got enough of food. So initially technology helped us, but the same technology is now creating what? Environmental challenges. So that's why I use the term risk society. We are living in that kind of society which is seemingly non-sustainable now. Postmodernism talks about it as a critique of modernity. So we'll understand that this question is misplaced here, I must say. कि इसको आप you should consider it after the thinkers, that how the things are. So what functionalists say, what Marxists say, and how they have collapsed, and we got something called postmodernism. Postmodernism, we started saying that no, we should try to understand things in more balanced way, not that over scientifically, not that over scientifically. Then yes. They are similar, less or more. Essence is similar. Whether you're asking Renaissance led to, whether you ask Enlightenment led to, whether you ask intellectual forces led to, they all are one. They all are similar. They all are similar. No, don't read too much into the question. That's also needed. They all are the same, whether you call it intellectual forces, whether you call it Renaissance, whether you call it Enlightenment. In one, you are talking about the time frame. In one, you are talking about who did it. Another, you are talking about that what exactly was taking place that time. So it's same. Now, again, I'll say this question: does collapse of functionalism and bankruptcy of Marxism? This is not the question here. Discuss the historical antecedents of emergence of sociology as a discipline. So straightforward है that what यहाँ talk about both again, equal proportion to social conditions as well as intellectual forces. So there should be fair contribution of both. What happened from the dark age, and then how we got Magna Carta, and how social conditions started changing in the Europe, and then how intellectuals started responding on it, and finally how we got emergence of various disciplines, and then sociology. In such question, charts might be more useful because they had said discuss the historical antecedents. Modernity presupposes class. This is something, again, this belongs to chapter 5. अगर आप देखो chapter 5 stratification, we have caste, class, ethnicity there. So this will be the part of that. Modernization presupposes class society. However, caste, ethnicity, and race are still predominant. This is question from 5th topic. That is where, if you see the stratification, in that we have race, ethnicity. This is where it should belong to. How does the intellectual forces lead to the emergence of sociology? Straightforward. Europe was the first and the only place where modernity emerged. You have to say, yes, Europe was largely the epicenter, but it was not the only place. You can talk about America, you can talk about Africa, you can talk about India, depends upon you. But America, India is more logical here. What aspect of enlightenment do you think paved way for the emergence of sociology? Here we'll say what is enlightenment, how this has resulted into the new thought process of scientific temperament and modernity. That part of enlightenment was more important, not that art and literature, but the way we got promotion of rationality, scientific temperament, when we started realizing that reflexivity is needed. This is where, so the way modernity has emerged out of enlightenment is something which compelled us to think that how humanity should be understood or examined not with the belief system but on the basis of scientific temperament, and that's how various humanities and finally sociology. ये जो मैं बार-बार emphasis कर रहा हूँ, never say direct sociology, various humanities and then sociology, because when these thing emerged, then it was realized there should be another discipline called sociology. Sociology is the product of European Enlightenment and Renaissance. Critically examined, straightforward. 2024 का क्वेश्चन है, तो अगेन आप बताओगे सीधा सीधा कि है अब 20 मार्क्स का है, तो that means how much roughly 250 to 300 words. That's how it should be. So here we'll talk about that what exactly European Enlightenment is, Renaissance is, what were the social conditions prevailing, all that chart, and then finally how it resulted into Enlightenment. Making sense? How many of you are not feeling familiarity with the topic? Raise your hands. Perfectly all right. कितने लोगों को लग रहा है कि नहीं मुश्किल होता अगर लिखना पड़ता तो? Provided you have revised it. वो भी important बात है. Then next is compare and contrast sociology with anthropology. Now again I told you that there is algorithm, that how what they study, how they intersect, how they are different, and how they are now coming together to make something new or interdisciplinary. So sociology, anthropology, कुछ नाम तुरंत दिमाग में आने चाहिए. One is Andre Bete. इनके बिना तो काम ही नहीं चलना. When we talk about sociology, anthropology, that's how Andre Bete believed upon it. Where they are similar in their content, where they're different in their methodology and approach. Then how sociology approach to human action differ from that of psychological approach. Sida, you should talk about Sigmund Freud, J.S. Mill, what they thought, and then how Durkheim and George Herbert Mead, they advocated. Discuss the changing equations of discipline of sociology with other social sciences. अब ये क्वेश्चन अच्छा था. Changing equations का मतलब क्या? You have to identify that how they are getting more interdisciplinary. So here emphasis should be on what? Being more interdisciplinary. Fine. So you will say you can take paragraph, one paragraph for at least 3-4 major like economics, political science, anthropology, history. In चार की जरूर बात करें because this is where sociology has become quite interdisciplinary and useful. And these days the lines of academic boundaries are getting blurred. We are getting in what is called quite interdisciplinary, and sociology by its nature is generic. This is where, in fact, यहाँ पे आप चाहो तो वो कुछ diagrams सा बना सकते हो, Venn diagram, that how they are coming together in few words, that how sociology and economics came together to make this, how sociology history came together to make what is called subaltern, how sociology and political science is leading towards public policy and civil societies, and so. How sociology and anthropology has almost overlapped. So what, that kind of thing. I hope I'm making sense. The next question is, the sociological imagination enables us to grasp history and biography and the relationship between the two in a society. अब ये I told you that C. Wright Mills has talked about the sociological imagination. So you have to first talk about what is sociological imagination, and that's why अगर हमने आप देखो तो हमने history में अलग से note में लिखवाया भी था आपको कि why in order to understand history in better way, it's important that we should have that sociological imagination, that apparently something looking independent or individualistic is actually rooted into social fabric. So looking at history, looking at biographies, क्योंकि his question में दो हिस्से हैं, history और biography दोनों की बात कर रहे हैं. And please, जब भी question लिखे, each and every word should be attended well. So here they're talking about history and biography and the relationship between the two in society. So these days most of the histories are what? In biographical format. Biographical format where we talk about an individual, but through which we come to know about that society in that individual was. So when you read biography of an individual, are not you learning the entire society of that time? What kind of society it was, what kind of challenges were there? And that's why biographies these days are becoming a very good source of understanding the society of that time. And what you're doing is, you're using sociological imagination, don't you? कि कहने को इंडिविजुअल चीज है, बट हाउ इट हैपेंड बिकॉज ऑफ थिंग्स. अभी मैं भी ये काम करूंगा इन ईच ऑफ द थिंकर. हर एक थिंकर में आई टेल यू हिज लाइफ बैकग्राउंड अ बिट. ऑब्वियसली वी आर नॉट हियर फॉर लाइफ बैकग्राउंड, बट थोड़ी सी कहानी, ताकि आप सोशियोलॉजिकली इमेजिन कर पाओ दैट व्हाई मार्क्स वाज थिंकिंग दैट वे, व्हाई डर्कीम वाज थिंकिंग दैट वे, एंड सो. So sociological imagination, what is sociological imagination? That you have to explain first. Then how in history it could be utilized, how in biographies you can write it together, or you can write each of in separate paragraph, and how history and sociology has come very closer this way. In this context of globalization, has the scope of sociology been changing in India? Now this question is something as the name itself is very clear, that to understand that you have to understand first sociology in India. So V.S. Naipaul, if you're knowing, is a famous writer, has highlighted अच्छा, ये क्वेश्चन I don't know, was there anything very significant or what? Because 1991, when we got LPG reforms, liberalization, privatization, globalization reform, Indian society started changing rapidly. अभी फिलहाल के लिए, हालांकि इस पे और डिटेल में बात होगी सोशियोलॉजी इन इंडिया में, Indian sociology has always been instrumental for one thing since beginning, and that is shaping society. Shaping society. So be it G.S. Ghure or be it Yogendra Singh, they all believed that sociology is for a purpose in India. Or if you allow me to say, this is not my line, this I'm taking from one of my colleagues, senior though, very senior, anyone from Japan University might be knowing, B.K. Nagla. He used a term for it, that sociology in India, sociology of India, sociology for India. So after 1991, you can say sociology for India was very visible. So this part, especially because of the second, maybe you could answer it better once you understand the part one of second paper. Part one of the second paper, that how sociology in India has evolved. From the viewpoint of growing importance of multidisciplinarity, how do you relate sociology to the social sciences? The same question, that sociology by its nature is generic, and how various interdisciplinary subjects are coming, and the boundaries has become blurred now. Making sense? This question and the above question is same. तो कभी कभी उन्होंने सीधे सीधे सिर्फ एक डिसिप्लिन से पूछा है, एंड समटाइम दे हैव आस्क्ड हाउ सोशियोलॉजी विद अदर डिसिप्लिन्स. तो जब अदर्स पूछा जाए तो एटलीस्ट टॉक अबाउट 4-5. फॉर श्योर सोशियोलॉजी एंड इकोनॉमिक्स, एंड फॉर श्योर सोशियोलॉजी एंड पॉलिटिकल साइंस. इन दो को तो आप इग्नोर नहीं कर सकते. देन सोशियोलॉजी एंड हिस्ट्री, सोशियोलॉजी एंड एंथ्रोपोलॉजी, सोशियोलॉजी एंड साइकोलॉजी. सो दिस इज हाउ यू शुड बी टॉकिंग अबाउट. Delimit the scope of sociology in relation to other sciences. Same question. Delimit is the boundary. So delimit the scope of sociology in relation to other social sciences. In other words, how sociology and social sciences are correlated. Discuss the nature of sociology. Highlight its relationship with social anthropology. So nature में क्या बात करेंगे? That how macro, micro sociology, nature of sociology is simply nothing but the scope of sociology. So how nature of sociology, how macro, micro, and how it has evolved, and then anthropology, how anthropology. But यहाँ पे उन्होंने social anthropology से रखा है, बात एक ही है. आंध्रवैदिक ऐसा लग रहा है कि वो उसी चीज को यूज किया गया है. So social anthropology and sociology, how they're interrelated, to what extent they are similar, and to what extent they are different. Making sense? हाँ या ना? क्योंकि थोड़ा सा feedbacks are needed. But again, I'll say, look, it's humanly not possible that we are writing each and every question in the classroom. But trust me, कुछ नहीं करना आपको, सिर्फ आज जाके घर पे, it won't take more than 1 or 2 hours. At least if not writing all the questions, उनकी thought framework बना लीजिए दिमाग में कि I'll write this, 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 and you'll see the clarity in your mind. ताकि let's clean the plate, कि एक एक चीज होती रहे. फिर ऐसा ना हो कि अक्टूबर में you are thinking कि अच्छा, क्योंकि when you are going to write mains, between prelims and mains you won't have enough of days, or that will be something where you will go mombo jumbo. ये भी पढ़ना, ये भी पढ़ना, ये भी दिक्कत है, ये डैब भी भरना है, and other kind of pressures. So make sure कि ये चीजें खत्म रहे तब तक. Then, do you think that common sense is the starting point of social research? What are its advantages and limitations? So same you have to say that what is common sense? Remember those 3 keywords, that it is localized, it is intuitive, it is unreflexive. And unreflexive, वो पहले बताओगे, how it should be scientific, how common sense could be used as point of hypothesis. So it provides various hypotheses to be examined. Now, where is good part? That it provides hypothesis, but इसकी limitation क्या है? What if you get carried away? That's where developing perspectives and examining scientifically is something which is needed. Then, again, one more thing I would like to say before I move further, eventually that is relevant now. Somehow, I don't know how, but somehow you think sociology is all about quoting names of thinkers only, as if you are writing bibliography. You know, bibliography, name of the thinkers, name of the thinkers, name of the thinkers. Not. It should be organic. Your answer should be organic. It should not be the case that you're artificially naming the thinkers just to showcase that you are flamboyant. You know, I call it vulgar display of knowledge. It's balance which matters, you know, anywhere is that fine balance. So be organic, be natural to yourself. This is my suggestion to you. Is the first part is definitely that whether you're understanding components of question or not. मैं इससे ज़्यादा यहाँ बोलना that will be unethical, but I can tell you one thing almost convincingly, that 45% weightage is given whether you are understanding questions in its length and width or not. 15% weightage is given. 15% of the weightage is given if you understand various dimensions and interdependence in the question. 10% weightage is given if there is an order in your presentation. That makes it 70. 10% weightage is given if whatever your text is, that is easily readable and comprehensible or not. That is called comprehensibility of the text. So those who are writing very flowery, very Shakespearean, difficult to understand, very poetic, they are not appreciated. It should not. Shashi Tharu's English is good, at par. There are people, they are writing very scholarly and very poetically. Poetically, that is something not appreciated. So yours, you know, and I have already told you what is comprehensibility, where the reader or the listener has least pain to understand. So while reading your text, I should not get stuck every now and then. So make sure that that's where pie diagram, flow charts, these things make your answer more visible. But again, it depends on the question. There is no fit for formula that in every question a Venn diagram has to be there. In every question, artificially, no, I will make a pie diagram. It depends on the nature of the question. So be organic, be honest to yourself, and your mind yourself will be telling in this question better to write in paragraph or better to make diagram and all. Depends on the type of question actually. And then 10% weightage is given, what is called following the expectations of examination. जो भी आप एग्जामिनेशन दे रहे हो, यहाँ पे यूपीएससी होगा, स्टेट सर्विसेज उनके जो एक्सपेक्टेशंस होते हैं, एंड 10% इज डिस्क्रिप्शन ऑफ द टीचर हु इज चेकिंग द कॉपी. सो 10 में से 10 नंबर के क्वेश्चन में आई विल हैव ओनली 1 नंबर ऑफ माई ओन. इफ आई वाज स्टूडेंट आई वुड हैव डिस्काउंटेड. मैं मान के चलता 9 नंबर में काउंटिंग होगी. आई डोंट बिलीव इन सब्जेक्टिविटी. वो दे तो भी ठीक, नहीं दे तो भी ठीक. एंड दैट्स व्हाई योर maximum weightage is where 45%, and that is understanding questions and the dimensions. So be honest on understanding demand of the question. Yes, why we quote thinkers? Because the moment you quote thinkers, there is authenticity in your statement, because you have not conducted any research. So I don't know whether you're talking commonsensically or whether it is based on some facts or figures. So the moment you're quoting thinkers, it gives authenticity. It gives authenticity, but because I'm not sure whether it's commonsensical or not. That's the reason why we expect that you should be quoting thinkers. But, and one more thing, don't bluff. कहीं आप सोचो कि उनको पता नहीं होगा कि आंद्रे बेते कौन है, और अब जहां you're artificially injecting आंद्रे बेते. Don't bluff. If you could not recall the thinker, according to some scholars, acceptable. While copy checking, we can see, अच्छा ठीक है, नाम याद नहीं आ रहा होगा. It's perfectly all right. It's understandable. As a graduate student, it's not expected that you should be remembering all the names. But I can tell you one thing. Statement को देख के मैं बता दूंगा कि पेलकेट पार्सन ने कहा भी होगा कि नहीं. Simple sociological imagination. Just by looking at statement, I can tell you कि ये statement इस आदमी ने कहा भी होगा कि नहीं. तो those copy checkers, they know. एक और बात, just for information, there is always a model answer given even to copy checker in order to bring homogeneity. And model answer is not the answer per se. It talks about the dimensions into it. कि ये चीजें हैं इसमें, ये चीजें अटेंड होनी चाहिए क्वेश्चन में. These things should be there in the questions. So let's say, hypothetically speaking, if I say, do you think the common sense is the starting point of social research? As a model answer, I'll say definition of common sense, relationship between common sense and social science is there or not, and then whether the limitation has been explained or whether the advantages has been explained or not. So these 5-6 things must be there. Must be there. And trust me, in model answers, nobody is going to write the names of the thinkers. वो तो हम आपसे इसलिए उम्मीद कर रहे हैं ताकि आप अपनी बात को किसी के सपोर्ट से कह रहे हो. That's it. No. So मैं आप मुझसे को मैं पहुंच रहा हूं 15 मिनट में, तो मैं कैसे मान लूं कि आप 15 मिनट कैसे कैलकुलेट कर रहे हो? एंड व्हेन आई से गूगल स्टडी इज सेइंग ETA इज 15 मिनट्स, ऑथेंटिक लग रहा है कि नहीं? बिकॉज उसने कुछ डेटा यूज किया है, कुछ वेरिएबल्स यूज किए हैं. आप तो बस कॉमन सेंसिकली बोल रहे 15 मिनट में पहुंच जाऊंगा यार. दैट्स द रीजन व्हाई वी वांट थिंकर्स. दैट्स इट. So don't overcook them either. Don't overcook them. But you should be remembering the names, and they comes naturally once you start understanding the concept. So that is how we got the question. Now discuss the relationship between sociology and political science. It should be there. How is sociology related to common sense? Straightforward question. How they are contradictory and how they are complementary. The focal point of sociology rests on interactions. How do you distinguish it from common sense? Common sense may derive interaction, but interaction also can be examined scientifically. ये इथनो मेथोडोलॉजी से क्लियर होगा. ये क्वेश्चन का एक हिस्सा आपको समझ में आ रहा होगा, but the other part of the question is yet not clear, क्योंकि वो अभी हमने करा नहीं है. That is इथनो मेथोडोलॉजी. कि once you will understand इथनो मेथोडोलॉजी little more, then understand that why common sense is good source. That's why we have written it also. कि इथनो मेथोडोलॉजिsts believe that common sense is needed while doing observations, but there should be a few things kept in mind. Is sociology common sense? Obviously not. Obviously, but it does not mean it is without common sense. Common sense provides the subject matter on which we study. So these are the questions from the previous year. I hope you are by and large comfortable. If you are more than 75% comfortable, the job is done. बाकी आप जितना रिवाइज करोगे, that's how the journey is. Now, making sense? Fine. Now, moving further, the next fellow, yes, sir. To be honest, shall I say one thing? I'm not the right person to answer all these things. Why I'm saying so? अभी जो मैंने आपको proportion बताया 45, 15, it was because I had checked copies for some of the state boards, not UPSC. I wish someday. But वहां से ये reference तो मिला कि less or more, this is what the pattern has been followed. अब एग्जैक्टली वो इंट्रोडक्शन एक्सपेक्ट करते भी कि नहीं, ये तो आई डोंट नो. ये तो हमने सोचा हुआ है. एंड आई एम टॉकिंग अगेंस्ट कॉमन सेंस एंड इम्पोजिंग माई कॉमन सेंस ऑन यू. अच्छा, बड़ा अजीब है डेटा. दे से this fellow got 60% marks because he wrote introduction this way, main body this way, conclusion this way. But look at this fellow has not got 40% marks either. क्या पता इसकी वजह से नंबर कट गए हो? Well, I'm not sure how can I answer. I hope being logical. अगर आप कह रहे हो कि ऐसा लिखने से 50% मार्क्स आए थे, तो ऐसा लिखने से 50% मार्क्स नहीं भी आए. This is what I'll talk about in a hypothesis called null hypothesis. We'll talk about hypothesis. कि hypothesis जब भी हम बनाए तो उसका opposite भी सोचना चाहिए, otherwise we'll get biased. If I say A is the cause of B, there should be another hypothesis, A is not the cause of B. So I really do not know. UPSC ने कभी नहीं बताया कि ऐसे लिखना, ऐसे लिखना, ऐसे लिखना. हाँ, एक चीज है, anyone from any of the European university might be knowing it, कि वहां पे we have a practice called synoptical essay type writing. ये टर्म जरूर दिखा है एक आध बार रेफरेंस में. Your answer should be synoptical essays. What we do in synoptical essays? In synoptical essays, generally we have an opening introduction, which is nothing but a quick summary of what you're going to explain. And then things are explained. So I really do not know, and that's why I'm saying कि I am leaving it to your wisdom. कि वाकई कुछ ऐसा है भी कि एक बहुत अच्छा इंट्रोडक्शन होना चाहिए, बहुत अच्छा कंक्लूजन. Honestly speaking, वो 7 मिनट में याद आएगा, I wonder. You got barely 7 minutes और उसमें डिजाइन करना, मतलब this is my opinion. I might be novice. I'm not denying it. Maybe I'm not the right person. That's why I said I'm not the right person to answer this. Ki whether there is anything called introduction, conclusion, main body, and so and so. Yes, if you are writing in an organized way, अच्छा तो सबको लगता है. Reader will be also happy. But giving, what I'm worried, कहीं ऐसा ना हो कि एग्जाम में आप क्वेश्चन को समझने के बजाय you are more worried about how to write a good introduction. Never try to impress your copy checker. Just be expressive what you're saying. Copy checker वहां आपको reject करने नहीं बैठा है. Understand this point. Is there to evaluate only. There to evaluate only. और वो ऐसा भी नहीं है कि वो वहां पे इंप्रेशन बनाने बैठा, वो भी जल्दी मैं घर जाके कॉपी चेक के घर जाऊं. नो, उसके लिए भी वो रूटीन काम है. Trust me. And you know what? When you're tired, when you're doing anything on routine basis, you go with standard operating procedures. Full stop. फिर आप SOPs पे चलते हो कि ये क्वेश्चन में ये चीजें दिखी है कि नहीं, बात खत्म. क्वेश्चन में डेफिनेशन दिया कॉमन सेंस का, ये आया है नहीं आया, ये बस हाँ, दैट्स हाउ इट इज. सो आपको क्या लगता है DTC का ड्राइवर हर बार वो देख रहा हूँ मिरर में, वो चल रहा है बस, हाँ कुछ होगा देखेंगे आगे. यू वर्क ऑन SOPs. So that's why, personally speaking, I don't believe in such thing. I'm not the right person. That's the right word. Technically, whenever you start a conversation, you introduce things. So while writing an introduction, there are various ways to write introduction. You can start with an anecdote. You can start with a statement, as you are asking. You can start with the data. You can start with any recent happening. वो कुछ भी हो सकता है. Everyone has their own style of starting. Like I always start with what? Anything to ask? That's my opening statement all the time. So everyone has their own way. Like most of the time, if you see my notes, I have started with the definitions. It referred to this, it referred to that, and then engaging into the things. So different people have different ways to look at it. It's up to you. Fine, making sense. So how to write an answer is your freedom. And trust me, if you are a graduate and if you're sitting here and understanding content, I don't think you don't know how to write. How to write. Maybe I'm artificially giving unnecessary pressure on you. पता चला दिमाग का एक हिस्सा इसमें engaged है कि कैसे लिखना है. So, हाँ, thought framework should be there. There should be an orderly fashion. कि हम इसकी बात करेंगे, इसकी बात करेंगे, इसकी बात करेंगे. चलिए. Anything from academic thing, by the way? All right, so next thing is, now we'll talk about fellow. His name is Karl Marx. Now, when it comes to Karl Marx, there's a very famous saying about Karl Marx, whether you accept him or you reject him, but you cannot neglect him. No, so this is how Karl Marx says. Who is this fellow? Why this fellow is so important? What he had said? Look, as I told you, अभी मैं थोड़ी देर पहले ही आपको बता रहा था कि while talking about any thinker, I'll first give the quick biography of the thinker, so that you can feel the connection that who is this thinker and why he's thinking in a particular way. So when it comes to Karl Marx was born in Germany. He was from Germany initially. He was from Germany, and if you see that time how Germany was changing, was bound to impact Karl Marx. So just listen to me, then whatever necessary we'll write, don't worry. So Karl Marx was born in Germany. Trier was a place. I'm born in Germany. Year, if you want to know, I know 1818, not needed for you. So that time Germany was emerging as an industrial capitalist society. So it was capitalism in its, you can say, in full swing. And that kind of laissez-faire was there. Imperialism has started, and we got new emerging capitalist class. idea of Germany as a state was getting very popular. Germany में state का जो concept था, that was getting popular. So those were the best days of Germany, needless to say. So Germany, he was born in those conditions, and needless to say, when in whatever condition you're born is going to have impact on you. Those days, one more thing was happening at religious front. Many of the uh, you can say Jews were converting into Christianity in the Germany, Poland, especially those areas. So he also belongs to one such family that was Jew turned Christian family. So originally Jew, but converted into Christianity. Father was an affluent fellow. Mark's father was an affluent fellow from the law background. And mother was a religious lady, quite religious she was, and was sidelined. Sidelined. That's the reason why Marx was always skeptical about religion, because might have seen that how in the family the religious lady has been tortured in various ways, and yet God is not listening. As a young Marx, probably these things has impacted, and that's why he later on went on saying that religion is nothing but opiate of the masses, through which the exploiters justify their exploitations. So Jewton Christian family, mother was sidelined, and yes, very brilliant scholar Marx was right from the beginning. And then he went to University of Berlin, from Bonn to Berlin. They are neighboring place, so he went to the Berlin. Very few people know that he was originally a student of economics and law. So when he was in Berlin, that time one fellow who was very popular in the entire Germany, especially the University of Berlin, his name was Hegel. So Hegel that time was famous for his idea called dialectic idealism. I know this is the first time, so don't worry, we'll understand the term gradually. So Hegel was very popular for his ideas that dialectic idealism is there. Marx was also inspired by this. You can imagine the popularity of Hegel to that extent that in Berlin there was one thing called Young Hegelian Club. And those who were followers of Hegel, they used to sit there, they used to discuss ideas of Hegel. That was the popularity of Hegel that time. So they are called Young Hegelians. So Hegel that time was so popular, and Marx initially was inspired by Hegel's idea. But then one fellow who was also a young Hegelian and eventually you can say teacher of Marx, though not in restrict sense कि university में कहीं पढ़ाया था, but kind of teacher, and Marx has high regard for him. His name was Feuerbach. So Feuerbach, Feuerbach. Ludwig Feuerbach was his complete name. He was the one who questioned Hegel also in certain ways. Now, before I move further, let's understand what Hegel was saying and why Feuerbach questioned it. According to Hegel, it is the ideas, the way we think is the way our realities are created. मैंने आपसे पहले भी पूछा था ये सवाल कि the way we think is the way our reality is created, or the way realities are the way we think. So it is our consciousness which create the social reality, or is it social reality which create the consciousness? Which one is right? Hegel believed it is the consciousness which creates social reality. The way we think is the way we become, is the way we behave. So the moment we think how our house should be is how our houses are built. जैसा सोच रहे तो घर वैसा बनाते हैं, and that's how the reality is. And those houses are something which are reflected there. So this way, according to Hegel, the way we think, the way our consciousness is, हम कहाँ सोचते? We have a consciousness. So the way we think is the way realities are. हम जैसा सोचते हैं वैसा बन जाते हैं, वैसा हो जाते हैं, वैसा करते हैं, and that's how reality is. And that is something which becomes more logical for us over the period of time. Hegel ने एक तो ये कहा, so there are two words, not dialectic. One word is dialectic, another is idealism. That the way we think is the way we become. Now, what is dialectic? I've already told you. Look at me. The moment I created height, depth was automatically created. Interestingly, the moment I was born, it was decided now I will die. The day this class started, the countdown has begun कि जल्दी खत्म हो जाएगा class भी. If there was no class started, there was no ending of the class, isn't it? So इस class को दो तरीके से देख सकते हैं. 10 days of classes or just 50 more classes left. Just 50 more classes left. Can't we see this way? So you can say it's my 20th birthday, or you can say x minus 20 is what is left. X minus 20 is what is left. Did you notice one thing? So every reality is bound to have a counter reality, opposite of it. Every reality is bound to have a counter reality. And this dialectic is again inherent in everything. So the moment you created height, depth is created. The moment you created somebody is born, the fellow will die. That's why I told you that Harbans Rai Bachchan's line, Swagat ke hi saath vida ki hoti dekhi taiyari. The moment you are inviting someone, now there you have to bid adieu soon. So this way, there is dialectic. Dialectic means there are two opposite ideas everywhere, and they interact. So there is a thesis. Thesis simply means an idea. Those days, thesis means an idea as of now. So there is an idea, there is a counter idea, thesis, antithesis, and they will come together to make something new called synthesis. So thesis, antithesis, they synthesize to make something new. This new will have its own antithesis. They will synthesize to make something new. This thesis will have its own antithesis, will synthesize something new. Original se bahut dur aa gaye, history created. So history must be viewed how the dialectic of ideas are there. Ek idea aaya, uska opposite idea aaya. They synthesized to make something new. A counter idea came. They synthesized to make something new. A counter idea came, and so on and so forth. So according to Hegel, history must be viewed that how people are thinking in dialectical fashion. कोई एक सोच रहा है, फिर उसका opposite भी है. The moment I say how should be built this way, opposite of that is bound to come. कि नहीं, it should be. In fact, आप देखिए, आप हमेशा dialectic होते हो. ये शर्ट पहनो या ये शर्ट पहनो. You're always choosing between two. This or this. Loves me not. Always between two. And they are opposite. Interestingly, they are opposite. Every time. Every time it is between two. That's why very famous that fellow. Up to he is more known for that slow interviews. Nilesh Mishra. He says very rightly that line ना कि दोनों ही आपके अंदर हैं वो. You have all the characters all the time. So he's very famous for that line. बात पे अपनी ही बात कहता है. मेरे अंदर पूरा एक शहर रहता है. So many ideas and the counter ideas and so and so. But interestingly, every time you choose between two, either this or that. अच्छा उसका reason भी है. That's why I said कि अगर शुरू में I try to tell you, is this movement which made us free, this or this, this or this. So there is one idea, and then there's a counter idea, and they synthesize to make something new. इसको हम क्या बोलेंगे? Dialectic. So what is dialectic? There is an idea, counter idea, they synthesize to make something new, which works as new idea, having its own counter, synthesized to make something new. According to Hegel, the way ideas are emerging, the way consciousness is emerging, we have a counter idea, they synthesize to make another idea, and that's how things are changing. मार्क्स ने ये बात तो एक्सेप्ट की कि डायलेक्टिक तो है, एवरी रियलिटी हैज अ काउंटर रियलिटी, बट मार्क्स सेज कि नो, इट इज नॉट द कॉन्शियसनेस विच डिटरमाइन द सोशल रियलिटी, इट इज द सोशल रियलिटी विच डिटरमाइन द कॉन्शियसनेस. सो आपको लगता है मैं जैसे सोचता हूं वैसा कर रहा होता हूं, या जैसी सोशल रियलिटी होती है, जैसे मैंने भी आपको एग्जांपल दिया, हम जैसा सोचते हैं वैसा घर बनाते हैं. बॉस ऐसा होता तो मेरा घर बहुत पहले बन गया होता. घर बनाने के लिए पैसा चाहिए होता, और जितना पैसा होता वैसा सोचते हैं कि कौन सा टाइल लगवाएं कौन सा नहीं लगवाएं, isn't it? कौन सा टाइल लगवाएं, कौन सा टाइल नहीं लगवाएं. इनफैक्ट आई टोल्ड यू दैट, ऑनेस्टली एडमिटिंग, व्हेन आई ड्राइव, I often say that these people who are crossing the road must understand they are not in the park. They are not in the park. And when I am crossing the road, I always think that these people must understand that road also belongs to me. Social reality changes us. In fact, I can recall, I remember when in JNU, in our days, we had blue buses. Blue buses होती थी, free में चलते थे हम लोग. वही लोकल गुंडई कि भाई देख लो 10 रुपए का टिकट और शीशा टूटेगा तो 1500 रुपए का जाएगा, और हमें हॉस्टल से एक पत्थर फेंकना, क्योंकि पूरे प्रीमाइसेस में अंदर बस चलती थी, तो हमें तो अपने हॉस्टल से एक पत्थर फेंकना था बस तुम्हारे बस पे, बाकी यू टेक केयर ऑफ. तो हम फ्री में चलते थे. 600 हमारे यहाँ से 615 एक बस नंबर जाती थी, 615 नंबर की बस, बढ़िया. हम उसके लोकल गून थे. उस बस में बैठ के सरोजनी नगर आते थे, वहां शॉपिंग करते थे. 100 रुपए में 2-3 शर्ट मिलती थी उस समय. एंड टेक एनी ब्रांड, जो ब्रांड आपको चाहिए, फ्रॉम लुई फिलिप टू व्हाटएवर, वी यूज्ड टू बाय दैट. वापस बस पकड़ के जाते थे, वहीं पे कुछ खा लिया, एंड वी वर हैप्पी. ऑनेस्टली एडमिटिंग, जब स्कॉलरशिप आई तो एकाएक बस में भीड़ दिखने लगी कि बस में भीड़ बहुत होती है, ऑटो से चलते हैं. लगने लगा बस में भीड़ बहुत होती है, बहुत टाइम लग जाता है, ऑटो से चलते हैं. वंस इन ए वाइल वहां पे एक पास में कोई जने के आसपास का हुआ तो जानते हो, मेजबान जाके खाने भी लगे कि नहीं, वाई ऑल द टाइम दिस अनहाइजीनिक रेस्टोरेंट. अनहाइजीनिक लगने लगा था, एंड वी स्टार्टेड गोइंग टू मेजबान काइंड ऑफ प्लेस. थोड़ा और पैसा आया तो लगा कि ऑटो में हवा बहुत लगती, गाड़ी होनी चाहिए. एंड देन थोड़ा और बचा तो साहब ऑटोमेटिक होनी चाहिए, थोड़ा कंफर्ट रहेगा. व्हाट इज हैपनिंग? सोशल रियलिटी इज चेंजिंग माय कॉन्शियसनेस. Is changing consciousness. So Marx seemingly is right. So Marx's dialectic is fine, that there are realities and there are counter realities, but dialectic of ideas are not important. What is important is dialectic of social realities, and history must be viewed by understanding how social realities started changing. So ab yahan se that young Marx is thinking something. He's saying कि no, dialectic is fine, this is fine, but it should be not idealism. It's not the consciousness which determines the social reality. On the contrary, it's a very famous quote of Marx. It's not the consciousness which determines social reality. On the contrary, it is social reality which determines the consciousness, and that's why it should be dialectic materialism. और ये मेटेरियलिज्म का आइडिया मार्क्स को मिला कहां से? ही गॉट दिस आइडिया फ्रॉम फेयरबैक. फेयरबैक, he was a German again, and he popularized one thing called notion of materialism. And that's why I told you कि Feuerbach was more a kind of टीचर टू मार्क्स. हालांकि ये सब यंग हेंगेलियन थे, उस क्लब में बैठते थे, बातें करते थे, एंड दे वर डिस्कसिंग द थिंग्स, और वहां पे ही केम अक्रॉस, एंड दैट्स वेयर ही फाउंड कि यार ये आदमी बात ज्यादा लॉजिकल कर रहा है. अब फ्यूरबैक ने क्या कहा जो मार्क्स को इतना पसंद आया? फ्यूरबैक रोट अ बुक कॉल्ड एसेंस ऑफ क्रिश्चियनिटी, कि क्रिश्चियनिटी इतनी तेजी से व्हाई इट्स गेटिंग पॉपुलर. दिस इज वेयर Feuerbach tried to understand how religion has changed because of changing material conditions. Changing material conditions. Why really Christianity has become the way it is. So, in the essence of Christianity, he took a kind of material stand कि how realities बदलने के साथ साथ religion बदल रहा था. जैसे आप ही देखो, आपका religion बदल गया कि नहीं? As the realities are changing. So realities बदलने के साथ साथ कैसे, when the social realities were changing, when the society was changing, when the economic conditions were changing, how new kind of religion was coming. So in the essence of Christianity, when Feuerbach talked about it, ये मार्क्स को बात जमी कि means social reality actually determines the way we think. अब religion खुद वैसे ही सोच रहा है, religion itself is thinking that way. So आप देखो आज हम अपने रिलीजन की बात करें तो isn't religion has got changed the way it was from the ancient time because of the changing realities? So, ऐसे कुछ फेयरबैक बोल रहे थे. That's why यहाँ सिर्फ सुन लीजिए, इसकी जरूरत नहीं है, जो जरूरत होगा that will write. He later on wrote, Marx wrote an article around 1860s that's called Thesis on Feuerbach, giving respect to that fellow कि मुझे उनसे क्या क्या सीखने को मिला, and whatever he said, it was a very voluminous book where he talked about. And Marx also wrote a book, हालांकि बहुत बात नहीं होती उसकी, that is called Poverty of Philosophy. So-called philosophy is actually very poor and very superficial. So poverty of philosophy, though not that popular, but yes, this Feuerbach's idea, notion of materialism, ki why Christianity came from what is called Jew culture and all, that is something which attracted Marx. अब जरा वापस जाइए उनके बचपने में. मार्क्स भी तो देख रहा था, ज्यू ट्विन क्रिश्चियन फैमिली है एंड मदर इज सफरिंग एंड ही वाज वेरी अटैच्ड टू द मदर. तो उसको फिर शायद दैट्स द रीजन उसको फीडबैक का ये आइडिया बड़ा पसंद आया. फीडबैक का ये आइडिया बहुत पसंद आया, दैट हाउ थिंग्स माइट बी, हाउ रिलीजन इज आल्सो चेंजिंग विद द चेंजिंग मटेरियल कंडीशंस. बट दिस इज वेयर ही गॉट द आइडिया ऑफ मेटेरियलिज्म. एंड आई बिलीव इवन सोसाइटी, हिस्ट्री मस्ट बी व्यूड व्हाट, by tracing its material sense. So history में ये देखिए कि what kind of economic activities were there in the ancient time, in medieval time, in modern time, and how things started changing. So history should be viewed in its material consumption. Now you confirm me, at least you got one term called dialectic. Means what? Dialectic means every reality is bound to have a counter reality, or what you can call as thesis and antithesis, and those who are accented antithesis, and this together makes what is called synthesis, which works as another thesis having its own antithesis, and so and so. So the way there are ideas and the counter ideas in material sense is something responsible for changing history. Now, yes sir. There are various, let's say अगर हम ideas की बात करें, so let's go back to again European time. King, do you know what was there in the French Revolution? No. Any idea? Maybe some of you have read, but just to answer him, you know what happened in the French Revolution? One of the very important development was Napoleon the 13th. Napoleon, who was monarch, and one idea is monarchy. इसका counter idea क्या है? People should take decision. People should take decision, and this synthesized to what? That people should choose someone who will be ruling and will take decision on behalf of them. A reality, a counter reality creating something else. So in fact, just for information, ये वैसे भी काम आएगा. आप बोलते हो ना लेफ्ट विंग राइट विंग, ये टर्म कहाँ से आया था? Napoleon the 13th, some people were believing there should be monarchy, king and kingdom should be there. Some people believed no, people should take decision, and that time Napoleon asked to the people, those who believe monarchy should exist should come on the right side to me, and those who believe this monarchy should go away and a new system should come to the left of me. King के left right की बात कर रहा हूं मैं. And since then we got right wingers are those who want to continue with the older order, status quo. Left wingers are those who want to bring change in the existing order. So left wing, right wing. Centrists, those who want to change but not radically. They want to do it gradually. That's how you say Congress is centrist, there are left-wing parties, there are right-wing parties. और यहीं पे एक चीज और भी सुन लेते हैं. Ultra leftists are those who want change should happen right now with the means of violence. Ultra rightists are those who believe status quo and culture should be protected, even if needed violence should be used, like Taliban. Even if needed, violence can be used, but culture should be protected. That's how we got the term left wing, right wing, and so it is coming from the French Revolution. So what happened? Two ideas. Whether monarchy should be there, an opposite idea is no. People's rule should be there. How it synthesized? In democracy. What is democracy? That people's rule should be there, but they should choose some people who can take decision on their behalf. So this way, an idea, because this question was any example, practical example of it. I hope that makes sense. So this is how every reality has a counter reality, synthesize something, make. And अभी हम और भी बातें करेंगे इसमें in material conception. So पहले तो ये term समझ में आया कि how when Marx was there in Berlin, he was inspired by this young Hegelian club, especially Feuerbach also. And this is where he believed that history must be viewed in this way. जब वो बर्लिन में थे मार्क्स doing his PhD, that time he was not convinced with the idea of the way things were moving on, and that's why he did not finish his study that way. He joined a local newspaper and started writing as an editor in that local newspaper, which was considered to be a voice of modern Germany. So वहाँ पे he was talking a lot about that how capitalism is, what are good and bad, and these kind of things. एक बात और, being student of economics and law, he also got exposure to the writings of Adam Smith. Adam Smith and Ricardo, these are two big names in economics. Adam Smith की बात भी जरा सुनते हैं. Adam Smith believed in order to survive, we have to do economic activities. भाई फल तोड़ के ला रहे हैं, जानवर मार रहे हैं, कुछ तो करेंगे ना. In order to survive, we have to do economic activities. Economic activities, and those what kind of economic activities we are doing, कौन सी economic activity हम कर रहे हैं, that shapes our society. And he used the term for it called modes of subsistence. इसका मतलब क्या कि in order to survive, everyone is doing some or the other kind of economic activity. So हर एक society में कुछ ना कुछ तो कर रहे होंगे ना survival के लिए. They might be cutting woods, they might be doing agriculture, they might be doing something else. So modes of subsistence is there with every society. हर society कुछ ना कुछ कर रही होगी in order to survive. आप ही हो, कुछ ना कुछ तो करोगे ही ना in order to survive. खाना कहाँ से लाओगे नहीं? How you'll make sure that you are having security and so and so. So in order to survive, every society does set of economic activities, what he called as, Adam Smith ने क्या term use किया था इसके लिए? Modes of subsistence. या एक बात और है, Adam Smith एक चीज और कह रहे हैं. According to Adam Smith, as an individual, we want to work. So as an individual, people want to work. That is because we're creative animals. We want to work. We want to work, and that's where there is, whenever we do something, we get something, we don't stop there. We set the new target. And that's why he said that there is ongoing new wants. ऐसा नहीं कि एक चीज अचीव हो गई तो बस हो गया अब. You go to the next. You go to the next. You go to the next. And Adam Smith said, people want to work. हालांकि मार्क्स इससे थोड़ा डिसएग्री करते हैं आगे चल के. मार्क्स says people might be good or bad, it depends. वो भी आगे आएंगे उस पर. सो एडम स्मिथ वाली बात भी मार्क्स को समझ में आई कि हाँ, एवरी सोसाइटी, अब जरा ध्यान से समझिएगा, टेक योर टाइम, आई हैव ऑल टाइम ऑन दिस अर्थ, बट इट शुड बी क्लियर इन योर माइंड्स. एक तरफ फ्यूरबैक क्या कह रहे हैं, मटेरियल देखें. मार्क्स कह रहे मटेरियल में देखें क्या, बिकॉज every society in order to survive is bound to do one or the other kind of activity, economic activity. So what kind of economic activity is that shapes the society? That shapes the society. What kind of economic activity is that shapes the society? And that's why Marx believed to understand how social realities are changing, where we should focus at, how the economic activities are changing. That's why, remember that line I told you? He said economy makes the base on which various structures are built. इस पे हम और आएंगे, but I'm just gradually. पहली बार जब आप सुन रहे हो, if you're getting more than 40%, job is done. By second, third time, it should be touching 80, 85, 90. फाइन, बट अगर 40 से ज्यादा है तो अच्छी बात है, बट 40 समथिंग उसके नीचे है, देन वी नीड टू बी वरीड अबाउट. So this is how, when we talk about, first thing first, dialectic is clear. Second thing, that history must be viewed then what? In material sense. और material में भी क्या देखें? Economy makes the base. वो कहाँ से आ रहा था? एडम स्मिथ से. खैर, ये सब चल रहा है अभी उस यंग मार्क्स में. 23-24 साल का लड़का है, बर्लिन में पढ़ता है, यंग हिगेलियन है. एक वहाँ 30-35 साल के फ्योरबेक हजरत हैं, उनसे रोज बातें होती हैं. दे हैव चिट चैट, यू नो, आई डोंट नो विच ब्रांड दे लाइक दैट टाइम, बट दे हैड चिट चैट. सो वो सब हो रहा है. नाउ दिस इज वेयर ही केम अक्रॉस वन मोर फेलो, लाइफ लॉन्ग पार्टनर जेनी. जेनी वो भी कहीं ना कहीं, वाई? बिकॉज मार्क्स ने जिंदगी भर कुछ कमाया नहीं. इट वॉज जेनी हु वेंट ऑन फाइनेंसिंग. नो, वो हमेशा से जेनी पे ही डिपेंडेंट रहे. God bless the couple, I should say. No, so खैर जैसा भी था, no, yes, I can understand. If you want to be philosopher, your better half should be earning. नहीं तो फिर आप तो मैनेज करने में रह जाओगे नहीं. So जो भी है, when he was in Berlin, and that time when he joined as a newspaper editor, he started writing about the changing society, what kind of nation state has been there. And that time Russia's king, Tsar जिनको बोलते थे, Tsar, he felt it something objectionable, and that's why he used all his political power to throw this fellow out. And Germany say he was almost expelled कि भाई तुम तो खतरनाक आदमी, ऐसे जाओ. And you know, there's a famous saying, enemy of enemy is a friend. So France invited him कि अरे ये सब स्टूपिड लोग हैं, कंजर्वेटिव लोग हैं, तुम आओ यहाँ से लिखो, वी आर मॉडर्न सोसाइटी. अभी भी फ्रेंच रिवोल्यूशन हुआ था, दे वर ओवर बाउंसिंग विद दैट मॉडर्नाइजेशन, डेमोक्रेटिक वैल्यूज एंड सो एंड सो. सो दे इनवाइटेड कार्ल मार्क्स कि यू कम हियर, ज्वाइन हियर एंड स्टार्ट राइटिंग फ्रॉम हियर. ही वॉज देयर फॉर 3-4 years एंड सून दे रियलाइज देयर मिस्टेक कि ये तो हमारे लिए भी उतना ही खतरनाक है, बिकॉज ही इज नॉट फॉर गिविंग अस ईदर. ही वॉज अगेंस्ट द आइडिया ऑफ स्टेट. In fact, when he was in France, 1948, that was the time he wrote the famous work called the Communist Manifesto. Communist Manifesto, where he said a line, "Come all the laborers, you have nothing to lose but to win the entire world." This is considered to be one of the very remarkable line in the labor revolution across the world. So 1948 Communist Manifesto, which was set of some papers, was issued. And he identified that how state, rich, they're exploiting the poor. They're exploiting the poor. So, and the poor, they are into a false consciousness. अब देखिए, ये होता है, ये नेचुरल है. हीगल से आए थे. हीगल क्या कह रहे हैं? कॉन्सियसनेस से रियलिटी बनती है. Now Marx says these people are giving you a false consciousness. What is false consciousness? What is not there is what has been told to you. As I have told you, this is a false consciousness, a first class conspiracy. The way we teacher have taught you from the beginning. Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Dev Maheshwara. ऐसा कुछ नहीं है. We are like another common man, another individual. But Guru Brahma, Guru Dev, इससे क्या होता है? हम जो कुछ कहें सब बढ़िया है. And we had portrayed as if you're dependent on me. The fact is, we are more dependent on you. As a matter of fact, we are more dependent upon you, but nahin, the way we created, we are superior, we are, what has been given? A false consciousness given to you. So labor को बताया गया कि साहब, those bosses, employers have employed you. Employers has employed you, and they are giving you salaries. Grow up. You are working for them. And that's how they got the money. You are giving them salaries, is what Marx said. I hope I'm making sense. आप कह रहे हो कि मालिक ने रखा हुआ है मजदूर को, और मजदूर को पैसा मालिक दे रहा है. हकीकत है मजदूर कमा रहा है जिससे मालिक को पैसा मिल रहा है. तो हु इज मोर डिपेंडेंट, मजदूर और मालिक? और आप कैसे पोर्ट्रे कर रहे हो, एज इफ आई एम गिविंग यू सैलरी एंड ऑल दैट. दैट्स व्हाई कभी मन करे तो वैसे इस पोएट्री के लिए फैज जेल गए थे. आई होप मेरे साथ ऐसा ना हो. No, Faz wrote a poetry where he compared liberals with street dogs, the stray dogs. It's a wonderful poetry. आप सर्च करें ना गलियां करके तो आपको मिल जाएगा. गलियों के कुत्ते इस तरह से करके उसका टाइटल है. गलियां करके सॉन्ग भी आ सकता है, तो बी केयरफुल. सो नो, सो फैज की जो पोएट्री इज अ वंडरफुल पोएट्री, बट इफ आई से इन वेरी फ्यू वर्ड्स, दो ओरिजिनल तो बहुत ज्यादा कॉम्प्लेक्स है, उर्दू है, लेकिन फिर भी इन सिंपल वर्ड्स आई सिंप्लीफाइड इट जस्ट टू एक्सप्लेन व्हाट. सबसे अच्छा एक्सप्लेनेशन माना जाता है मार्क्सिज्म का. व्हेन फैज सेज, ये गलियों के आवारा बंजारा से कुत्ते, जिनका न कोई घर न कोई ठिकाना, न कोई रह गुजर न कोई आशियाना. So these stray dogs neither have a place to stay nor have any acknowledgements, you know, जिनका न कोई रह गुजर न कोई आशियाना, कि जो चाहे जब चाहे इनको लड़ा दे, कि जो चाहे जब चाहे इनको लड़ा दे, बस एक जरा रोटी का टुकड़ा दिखा दे. This is what they are doing too, just giving by loaf of bread. I am employing you, I will hire you, I will fire you, grow up, grow up. But this is how. So जो चाहे जब चाहे इनको लड़ा दे, बस एक रोटी का टुकड़ा दिखा दे. पर द लास्ट लाइन इज, बहुत सारी चीजें हैं जल्लत इनकी जिंदगी का हिस्सा, वो सब वंडरफुली एक्सप्लेन दो. इट गिव्स यू गूज बम्स इफ यू अंडरस्टैंड द उर्दू. एंड देन द लास्ट लाइन इज, पर जो अपने पे आए तो दुनिया जला लें, जो अपने पे आए तो दुनिया जला दें, अपनी आकाओं की हड्डी तक को चबा लें, कोई इनको एहसास ज़िल्लत करा दे, कोई इनकी सोई हुई दुम को हिला दे. So if somebody tells them what is the true consciousness, if somebody tells them how they are being insulted and that is something what they are not entitled for, might bring the change. So this is where, when in Communist Manifesto he used this term, कि there is a false consciousness given. When the liberals are being told you are dependent upon us, that's why the line is, come all the liberals, you have nothing to lose but to win the entire world. And this was alarm for France, कि ये तो आदमी खतरनाक है, इसको तो गलत बुला लिया हमने. He was further expelled, कि यहाँ से तुम निकलो. And the next shelter was UK, London. That time, one fellow who turned to be lifelong friend of Karl Marx, lifelong friend, and you know the kind of bro code जिसको बोलते हो, his name was Frederick Engels. अच्छा, Marx was not a good writer. Marx was not a good writer. He was very good thinker. But being a thinker and being a good writer are two different things. Frederick Engels was a good writer. He belongs to a very rich family, and he was the one जिसने मार्क्स के सारे आइडियाज को बुक्स के फॉर्मेट में फिर एक तरह से ऑर्गेनाइज किया. और so whatever Marx wrote was made more organized in form of various books. That's why जितनी भी books आप देखोगे कार्ल मार्क्स में, it is always co-written with Frederick Engels. So Frederick Engels, who turned to be lifelong friend of Karl Marx from the Germany days, his family was in UK. Marx shifted there. In fact, when he was in France, that was the time they married, Jenny and Marx. हालांकि married बोल रहा हूँ क्योंकि बोलना पड़ रहा है. That's how it is. There are no such certification or oath taken, और जो है, but हाँ, just for sake of giving the order to the things. So this is how they stayed there lifelong, and then they finally went to the UK, and Marx stayed there. In UK, that famous book Das Kapital came up. Das Kapital is the capital in its modern version, जिसको हम देखते हैं आजकल. And that time he also called the Critique of Political Economy. That is where another book of Marx, which became very popular later on. So lifelong, and in fact Marx was lifelong so committed to the cause of common people. So he gave this idea of false consciousness, true consciousness, they should come together, they should fight. And one more thing which makes Marx more organized, that he was so data driven. Now you know the term. I can say he was very positivistic in his approach. Economics का impact था वो. he was very data driven. वो जो कुछ भी बात करते थे डेटा का, आप अंदाजा लगा सकते हो कि what kind of research it would have been, कि मार्क्स ने एक एक घर का डेटा इकट्ठा किया था यूके का, just to know that how prosperous they are and how many working hours they have. This is something which compelled the UK government to have that Rowntree survey, which is the first survey of poverty, to identify that how many people are there deprived of. So people are working for 15, 16, 17 hours and they don't have even 2 square meal a day. खाना नहीं खा पा रहे, मतलब खाना नहीं मिल रहा और फिर भी 15-16 घंटे काम करते थे. He was the one who fought for it and lifelong stayed in those slum areas of UK only, and around the outer skirts of London, and died there also. एक और बात भी थी, in the latter phase of his life, something unfortunate happened to him in his personal capacity. Son died and all. So in that case, he also got very close to what is called psychological thing, and this is where he wrote that famous book called Alienation. Alienation, where he found they are not only robbing in the material sense, they're also robbing in non-material sense. So alienation is when you got detached from something. अब जैसे मैं आपसे पूछूं कि you are a student of, आप बताओगे विजन के, I'm the one who's barking. I'm the one who's barking. I'm the one who's running pillar to post. And आप सामने ही मुझे बता रहे हो स्टूडेंट विजन के. Don't you think I will feel alienated then? Alienation. And this alienation will be visible in my actions, in my behavior, in my thought processes, everywhere. Don't take me seriously, I'm just giving an example. That's their victory, na? मैं डर रहा हूं. Could you see this? I'm scared. I'm scared a bit. That's their victory. This is another level of alienation. I hope I'm communicating well. ये जो explanation दे रहा हूँ, नहीं मैं तो मजाक कर रहा था, मैं तो सिर्फ example दे रहा हूँ. I mean it. But I can't say that way. I can't say that way. It's because what? Another degree of alienation. So this is where he talked about alienation. And alienation turned to be, again, one of the wonderful things in modern times. When everyone is facing problem, look, labor, even labor को काम कैसे करना है, वो labor decide नहीं करती. अब who will decide that what should be the class timing? Who should decide how should I teach? Who should decide how many classes will it take? If not me, I'm bound to be alienated. If not me, and thankfully that's not the case here, though. This time I'm genuine. All right, so no. So if you see this way, it is what? He said that how alienation is manifesting in various ways, and even lifelong he stayed there in poverty. There was nothing called possession in the Marx name, and then even he died in that poverty only. And subsequently, if you see after Marx, whatever Communist Manifesto, other things, they became so popular so that you got altogether new thing, new ideas, and so. In fact, after that, Lenin used this idea, and Russian Revolution started, October Revolution, what you call. So ये सब हुआ, अभी इसको और भी trace करेंगे. But I was just trying to tell you a quick biography that why was thinking that way in a particular span of life. So यहाँ से क्या क्या आपको ध्यान रखना है, सिर्फ बाकी जो story थी, that Marx was inspired by Feuerbach, or you can call it Feuerbach, you might be knowing better how to speak German. So Feuerbach, and then we got Adam Smith and Ricardo, which has inspired him a lot, that how things should be positivistic and modes of subsistence. और यहाँ से फिर मार्क्स ने अपनी पूरी थ्योरी establish की that how history must be viewed in terms of its, in its material conception. I'm too small a fish, but if I was supposed to write a book on Marx, I would have given definitely some credit to Jenny too. पता नहीं हम इस dimension को क्यों भूल जाते हैं? Because yes, Marx has got a very rough patch for 3 years when they were not together. That Marx himself admitted, but when it comes to mainframe writing, I don't know why these people are not talking about this. वो acknowledgement भी जरूरी है. So क्योंकि कहीं ना कहीं if Marx was Marx, ऐसा तो नहीं हो सकता कि जेनी इतनी समझदार नहीं रही होगी. वो तो रेफरेंस नहीं है तो बात अलग है. एक जहां से रेफरेंस मिला, and that was Oxford Dictionary, Gordon Marshall, कि Jenny was a poetess, by you can say she was also a writer. अब एक रेफरेंस है सिर्फ, अब कितना स्ट्रांग है कितना सही है वो दैट्स अ डिफरेंट थिंग, बट मेरे ख्याल से ये एंगल्स भी अब जोड़ने चाहिए। इंस्पिरेशन में सिर्फ एडम स्मिथ रिकार्डो, उसका कोई रोल नहीं। सो फ्रेडरिक एंजल्स, मैं 4 नाम ले रहा हूँ, फ्रेडरिक एंजल्स, फ्योरबैक, एडम स्मिथ, रिकार्डो, these people has inspired Marx in different capacities. Now from Adam Smith what he got, that every society, every individual, in order to survive, is bound to do some economic activities, that will be there. ये बात clear हो गई। Second thing, that from Feuerbach what he got, that things must be viewed in terms of material sense, From Hegel what he got, that there is dialectic of the ideas, but he refuted Hegel by saying it is not the dialectic of the ideas, it is dialectic of the material realities. So अगर हम इन सब चीजों को मिलाएं तो what is the outcome? According to Marx, if you want to understand society or history must be viewed in its material conception. History must be viewed in its material conception, and what we look into, how economy makes the economic activities, makes the base on which various superstructures are built. When I say superstructure, it could be your social institutions, political institutions, religious institutions, and so and so. So economy makes the base on which, so if you want to understand them, study this. And यहाँ पे क्या देखें फिर? So he said that it works as a system, you can call it systemic view, where economy makes the base on which various superstructures are built. And in economy, what you should look at, this he called as modes of production. Adam Smith ने क्या कहा था? Modes of subsistence, survival के लिए, but he preferred the term modes of production, that how production activities are going on. By understanding the production activities, how they are going on, you can understand how other institutions of the society are, how they are related. So आपको focus कहाँ करना चाहिए? इसको पढ़ना चाहिए कि what were the modes of production in different part of the history, and that's how we try to trace history. That's why it is called as historical materialism. So historical materialism is an approach that says, ये आपके syllabus में है, that says that history must be viewed in its material conception using dialectic stand. History must be viewed in its material conception using dialectic stand, where economy makes the base on which various superstructures are built. तो क्या देखें हम? How economic activities are taking place in different part of history, in different types of societies, how different kind of economic activities were there. And economic activities को समझने के लिए क्या समझे? He says modes of production. I hope this part is clear. यहाँ तक clear है? Now, so inspiration of Feuerbach, inspiration of Adam Smith and Ricardo, inspiration of Friedrich Engels and Hegel is something which made Marx to think this way. Fine. हालांकि ऐसे क्वेश्चन कम दिखते हैं, लेकिन एक आधा क्वेश्चन दिख सकता है जहां पे what inspired Marx to think or something like that. So you should know at least these 4 names which has, yes ma'am. When I say various superstructures, the way your social institutions are, आपका society कैसे बन रहा है, the way your political institutions are, government कैसे बन रही है, the way your religious institutions are, and so and so. So अब आपसे जो आज की अगर हम बात करें, so what kind of economic activities we are characterized by? अभी capitalist activities are there. We are more capitalistic. So अभी what is more important? आप families को देख लो, आप political institutions को देख लो, are not they revolving around all these things? So the way economic activities are, that determine that what kind of society will be there, what kind of social institutions will be there. सो फैमिली का डिफिनीशन बदल गया। आज के 100 साल पहले अगर आप जाके कहते किसी से कि एक टीचर है, पैसे लेके पढ़ाता है, तो दे वुड हैव सेड हाउ ग्रीडी दैट इज, कैन नॉट बी अ गुड टीचर, डोंट गो देयर। और आज जाके बोलो एक टीचर है फ्री में पढ़ाता है, से फालतू होगा तभी पढ़ा रहा है। Isn't your interpretation got changed on the economic realities? Because you're in today's world, how it's possible? How it's possible that someone, because now our ethos is what? Capitalistic. आपने नोटिस किया, आप क्या कहते हो? 500 fortune, ये तो आता 500 fortune of in world. Warren Buffett, Bill Gates, and they are not most fortunate people, they are most richest people. But how you treat them? मुझे तो वो बहुत helpless दिखते हैं, to be honest. I sometimes wonder, I know you're bound to laugh at me, but I once heard Mukesh Ambani, once, way back. And you know, schedule was given, he will come at 12:47, and then he will leave at 12:52, that was the schedule. And he came at 12:47 and left at 12:52. I was feeling pity about him. My God. And just for information, these VVIPs, security personnel are there in their washrooms too. And it was asked, it's official statement of one of the head of security personnel of ex-Prime Minister. When it was asked, he said, yes, we are in washrooms too, but we act like furnitures. I don't know who achieved what. Look at the paradox. The most powerful on this earth needs the maximum security. कितना गरीब है बेचारा, मेरी तरह घूम भी नहीं सकता, मैं अपना मेट्रो में गाना लगा के सुनता रहता हूँ. I don't know who's rich. The most powerful man needs the most security. और आप उसको fortunate बोल रहे हो, grow up. मैंने बताया ये fortune है, हर दिन 1000 बच्चे, अच्छी अच्छी बातें करता हूँ, अच्छी अच्छी बातें सुनते हैं वो. Their glittering eyes tell me, your eyes get a bit broader when you get a good idea. पता चलता है. This is what is called treasure, not that what is in my account. Why we can't look at this way? मेरी बातें पता आपको क्या लगेंगी? लफाजी. अब वो justified लगेगा कि I got these many zeros in my account. Economy makes the base which justifies the things. Isn't it? मेरी बातें क्या लगे? अरे पैसा नहीं है तो justification दे रहे हैं. Isn't it? I hope I'm making sense to you. So isn't your so-called definition of a rich, a successful, I think this is success. And I mean it. At my core, I mean it. This is success. 1000 बच्चे on an average every day. I could help them. I could help them to understand concepts. And your eyes do glitter. वो दिखता है यहाँ से. You know, and that is what is success. But नहीं, वो depend करता है कितने zeros हैं. क्या कमाए? यही कमाए हो. मेट्रो से चलते हो, अच्छा गाड़ी भी नहीं तुम्हारे पास, वो the poor you. हाँ, that's the impression, the poor you. उसे कितने लोग पूछते हैं कि why don't you change your car? It has been so many years. Why should I change? She has been so loyal. No, why should I? कभी कहीं धोखा नहीं दिया, इतने जहाँ पे गया मैं उस, we had traveled a lot. No, but no. Look, that's their explanation, sir. That's their explanation, sir. So, yes, I'm attached to it. I have a number of memories attached to it. Why not? But we don't look at this way. If I'm driving a big car, if I'm driving what is called having expensive clothes, then only my life is virtuous. Isn't economic reality determining the social things? The political institutions, the social institutions, and each and everything. So that's how economy makes the base on which various superstructures are built. I hope it's clear. So this is how we got this idea of Karl Marx. एक और बात, इससे पहले आगे बढ़े, एक और टर्म है जो मार्क्स से जुड़ा हुआ है, and that you should know, and that's called praxis. What is praxis? Praxis simply means whatever theory is applied. Theory should be applied. So praxis is practical implementation of the theory. Praxis simply means that whatever theories are, they should have practical implementation. So Marx ने historical materialism में praxis की बात भी की. I'm just introducing the term, at least you should know the term first. What is praxis? That whatever we have learned, now we should use to bring new society. So let's say if I want to make a new society, I must change my economic activities of the society. I should justify economic activities in a different way, and society will be changed. Society will be changed. जैसे कि मैं यहां पढ़ा रहा हूं पर आप मेरे स्टूडेंट क्यों नहीं हो? Because this place is owned by someone else. Now let's use it. If this place is not owned by anyone, then you are my student. What I'm doing is praxis. This is what he did to advocate communism. That what is communism, socialism and all. So he said, agar ye ownership khatam kar di jaye, then the product will belong to the laborers. So what he did, he used ideology for practical purposes to bring that change in the society. So praxis says that whatever your ideologies are, whatever your theoretical understanding is, should be utilized in practical way. And they are complementary. They're two sides of the same coin. Because praxis is not possible without theoretical explanation. So theoretical explanation की भी जरूरत है और उसका application होना चाहिए. अभी इसको और clear होगा. अभी मैं सिर्फ term introduce किया है. इसको हम यूज करेंगे जब मोड्स ऑफ प्रोडक्शन में हम देखेंगे कि यहां तक तो हिस्ट्री ऐसी थी, बट यहां से हम हिस्ट्री को बदल सकते हैं बाय यूजिंग व्हाट, जो यहां तक समझा उसका यूज करके वी कैन मेक द वे वी वांट. सो दिस इज व्हाट इज कॉल्ड प्रैक्टिस. कि अब तक प्रैक्टिस सिंपली मींस प्रैक्टिकल इंप्लीकेशन, and that will be possible only when you understand theory well and you know how it can be utilized to bring necessary change. Making sense? So अभी तक आपने जो कुछ भी समझा अपने बारे में, अपनी लाइफ के बारे में कि why you got succeed, why you got failed, you can utilize it to bring necessary change in your life. What you're doing is praxis. So this way we got, when we talk about, ये थोड़ा fancy term है, जब मार्क्स की बात आती है तो एक टर्म जो सबसे पहले दिमाग में आता है इंटेलेक्चुअल्स के, वो है डायलेक्टिक मटेरियलिज्म. एंड देन सेकंड थिंग इज प्रैक्टिस, व्हिच ही यूज्ड टू एंटीसिपेट कि फ्यूचर में सोसाइटीज कैसी हो सकती हैं. दिस इज वेरी बिलीव हम कम्युनिज्म हो सकता है एंड सो एंड सो. सो इट्स अ स्मॉल टर्म आई वांटेड यू टू इंट्रोड्यूस ऑन द डे वन, फिर धीरे धीरे और बातें होंगी, देन विल बी मोर क्लियरर. मेकिंग सेंस? So these were the initial part of what you can say that what inspired Marx and how he believed that history must be within its material conception. Now, using this, yes sir. All right. If I could paraphrase the entire question, his question is to what extent Marx is right. Before before we jump on this conclusion whether he was right or wrong, let's at least listen him in toto. पहले उसको पूरा सुन तो लेते हैं, फिर देखेंगे कि सही है कि गलत. और हमेशा सही और गलत होने की लड़ाई इतनी क्यों? Why this is important कि सही हो या गलत? एक बात. Second thing, as he has asked, कि is it really the case that employers are one because employers might be having ownership, they are investing money and so and so. अभी आएगा modes of production में, but just for an example, I told you already, and साहब नदी सबकी थी, जमीन सबकी थी पहले तो. आप मुझे बताओ प्लीज, बिकॉज आई थिंक दिस क्वेश्चन इज इंपॉर्टेंट टू अंडरस्टैंड मार्क्स. आपको कन्विंस होना जरूरी है इस पे. सर नाम आपका भूल गया. रोहन नहीं, वो ऑल राइट. चलो रोहन को टारगेट नहीं करते, इन जनरल बात करते हैं. नहीं तो आप मुझसे अमीर हो या गरीब ऑक्सीजन के मामले में? आर यू रिच और यू पुअर इन टर्म्स ऑफ ऑक्सीजन? वी आर इक्वल. नो वन इज रिच, नो वन इज पुअर. वी ऑल हैविंग इक्वल एक्सेस ऑन ऑक्सीजन. जब हवा बहुत खराब हो जाएगी, यू आर पॉल्यूटिंग एयर, and then you will start selling oxygen in the boxes. Oxygen mask will come, Nike वाला oxygen mask, Bisleri का oxygen mask, हम जैसे लोगों को MCD का oxygen mask. Now you will be rich or poor? You will be rich because you're having Nike's oxygen. I will be poor because I'm having MCD's oxygen. You will be having that place where oxygen is created, concentrated. I will not be having access to that. You are rich, I am poor, isn't it? Your next generation, you will transfer it to your next generation. It will be transferred to the next generation. It will be transferred to the next generation, and that fellow will think as if my forefathers always owned oxygen. हमेशा से ऑक्सीजन हमारी ही थी. ऐसे ही जमीन के साथ हुआ बॉस. जमीन किसी की थी नहीं. कुछ लोगों ने कब्जा कर लिया कि ये मेरी जमीन है. They barricaded it. It was in plenty. Some people barricaded it. They forwarded it to the next generation, next generation, next generation, and you think land belongs to me. This is one of the common questions I often hear from the landlords. अपनी जमीन ऐसे किसी को क्यों देते? तुम्हारी थी कब? On the contrary, you manipulated. Your forefathers were manipulators. They manipulated. That's why this land belongs to you. The way if you start manipulating oxygen, पानी आ गया ना, आप देखो क्वाका बॉटल, ब्लैक वाटर, वो नाले वाला पानी, no, ब्लैक वाटर एंड बिस्लेरी का वाटर 74% है पूरी दुनिया में. 3 लोग में पानी है, तब ये हाल है. बॉटल्स में बिकता है, बॉटल्स में बिक रहा है. And you think, I am rich, so I should have that black water. You are poor, you should have that chlorine mixed water. Water belongs to everyone. But now, haven't you differentiated that way? So, किसने create किया? So, पहले वो so-called owners, are they really owners then? You have robbed my share. Please give it back. I don't want revenge, but please give it back. तो सो कॉल्ड ओनर्स, पहली बात, सो कॉल्ड ओनर्स, आर दे रियली ओनर्स ऑफ द एसेट्स? नहीं. रही बात, सो अगेन विल टॉक अबाउट. अच्छा, वन थिंग आई वुड लाइक टू क्लैरिफाई. व्हेन आई विल टॉक अबाउट अ थिंकर, आई विल बिहेव एज अ मेस्डर. आई विल प्रूव हिम राइट एवरी टाइम. एंड जब बात खत्म हो जाए तो मैं मार्क्स को खूब सुनाऊंगा भी. When I'll come to Durkheim and all, ki how he was wrong and so. As of now, Marx is saying is what is absolutely right. That's how I'm going to defend. So this is first thing, that why I hope I'm making some sense to you. जमीन कभी किसी की नहीं थी बॉस. सारे रिसोर्सेस सभी के बराबर थे. Land belongs to all of us, but you captured. You captured. Water belonged to all of us. नदी सबकी थी, आपने स्विमिंग पूल बना ली, आपका हो गया पानी. That became yours, right? Things were non-competitive. You made it competitive. Things were non-competitive. अभी लोग लैंड्स पे, पता है मेरे पास मकान क्यों नहीं है? क्योंकि किसी के पास 52 कमरे का मकान है, किसी के पास 5 मकान है. अभी वो ओनरशिप खत्म कर दी, सबके पास मकान है, काफी है. There is no dearth of space, trust me. वो जो आपने 5 कमरे का मकान बना लिया ना, रहेंगे तो 3/6 में ही. बाकी में आपका ईगो रहता है, आपकी ओनरशिप रहती है, आपकी ओनरशिप रहती है, isn't it? एंड उसकी वजह से बाकियों के पास मकान नहीं. That's how we are here on the streets. गांव में अब देखिए, गांव में अभी कभी देखा किसी सड़क पे सोते हुए? थैंकफुली अभी लैंड बची हुई है. सिंपल. So this is where your so-called idea of ownership itself might be questioned. एक बात, हाँ सर आप पूछ के रहे थे. No, everywhere, any kind of thing, any kind of idea, any kind of thing. So जितनी भी बात है, और रही बात आपने तीसरी जो कही, गुरु ब्रह्मा गुरु विष्णु, I'm happy that you respected me that way. You're still, that's their victory. The formula is still working. और आप कह रहे हो कि आई रियली डोंट नो, पता नहीं, आई पर्सनली बिलीव एंड आई मीन इट कि लुक द वे काइंड ऑफ गुरु दक्षिणा, इससे बड़ी गुरु दक्षिणा क्या लोगे, थम मांग लिया था, और भी चाहिए कुछ भाई? आई पर्सनली बिलीव एकलव्य को थम देना नहीं चाहिए था, बल्कि थम यू शुड हैव शोन द थम, कि एक तो पढ़ाया नहीं है ना, ऊपर से यू आर डिमांडिंग दिस एंड यू कॉल हिम गुरु, virtuous. Look at the conspirator. So that some rich student whom he has promised he will be the superior somehow continues. बात तो वही थी बॉस। नहीं, you started this saying कि वो गुरु दक्षिणा उस समय नहीं लेते थे, that's what. अभी फिलहाल just I agree, but this is how it should be, a bit fun also here and there, but the point is I want you to be convinced to this idea कि the so-called ownership, the so-called superiority, the so-called control is actually has happened in course of history where some people got favorable conditions. It has nothing to do with the skills per se. Don't think they got extraordinary qualities. It was just that you were there and you were a bit lucky or you were a bit manipulative. So this way, एक तो पहले ये, अब इस पर और भी बातें आएंगी, don't worry. And that's why C. Wright Mill said कि those who are in power, they are not because they got special capabilities. There was something which favored them. There was something which favored them. So don't think that those who are good writers, they are very skilled. There were a few things favored them. So, you know, that's why वो लाइन है ना, तुम खामखा अपनी कामयाबी पे नाच करते हो। जरा आप देखो, with due respect, look at yourself. When you score because of this class, you'll say, I am the meritocratic one. I got 90%. Really? You have not given any test to sit in this class. कोई टेस्ट दिया था इस क्लास में बैठने का? You're lucky to born in that family which can afford. Impression क्या है? I was meritocratic, so I got this much. I hope I'm not transcending my limits. डरा हुआ भाई, वो भी देखना है. No. But I'm asking you, are you really meritocratic? आपने तो कोई टेस्ट भी नहीं दिया. You have not given any test. You were lucky earlier also. You went to the best of the schools. You got the best of the lifestyle possible, best of the food. बस कितने बच्चे तो मर जाते हैं क्योंकि प्रॉपर प्रोटीन नहीं मिलती 2-3 years में, and they die. वहां पे कौन सा स्किल आप देख रहे हो? So look, this is where, and that's why I said every perspective has its importance. But don't get carried away. ये मैं आपको बता रहा हूँ. I'll criticize Marx also, but as of now. So this way we got, I hope making some sense. So when we talk about how, according to Marx, when we want to understand the reality, we should try to see it in the material conception, that how economy makes the base on which superstructures are built. So economy में क्या देखें? How modes of production, or in other words, how economic activities are taking place. And that's why in your syllabus they had given this also and this also. फिर praxis का use करके he talked about one thing called class struggle, and then further he believed that, you know, how there could be different kind of societies, that is also in your syllabus. And then we have one thing called alienation. That's why 4 things has been given in your syllabus, which they are asking question upon. So modes of production, historical materialism, then third is class struggle, and fourth is alienation. These 4 things are in your syllabus. Now I hope you understand why उन्होंने इन चारों चीजों को syllabus में रखा. That means they wanted you to know all the dimensions which Karl Marx has contributed. एक और बात, Karl Marx was not a sociologist per se, because I have to answer that question too. He was not a sociologist per se. In fact, he wanted to be remembered as a political revolutionary. But what he said was eventually significant in sociology. That's why this problem might be there, that sometime you will feel that his ideas are more biased towards political science or those revolutionary ideas and all. But what eventually he said, in fact, ये जो private property का concept है, This is itself is an eye opener. ये मैं आपको एग्जांपल दे पाया ऑक्सीजन वाला. It was because Marx has talked that way कि how things were non-competitive and they were made competitive. Things were non-competitive. अभी ऑक्सीजन को लेके कोई कंपटीशन नहीं है. और कल को क्या होगा जब ऑक्सीजन को कुछ लोगों की हो जाएगी तो यू विल लाइक टू हैव एज मेनी ऑक्सीजन पॉसिबल. यू विल स्टार्ट फॉर योर अपकमिंग जनरेशंस आल्सो. ये तो प्रॉब्लम हो रही है, लोग अपनी कमिंग जनरेशन के लिए स्टोर कर रहे हैं. दे आर टेकिंग मोर लैंड देन रिक्वायर्ड. दैट्स व्हाई इट्स नॉट अवेलेबल फॉर अदर्स. सो कंपटीशन आ गया कि नहीं. सो नॉन कॉम्पिटिटिव थिंग्स हैड बिकम कॉम्पिटिटिव. So this is how, according to Marx, when we want to understand history, when we want to understand society, this could be the approach. So again, a disclaimer, he was not a sociologist per se, like Durkheim आप देखोगे, he was very organized, taking data, doing research. He was not sociologist per se, but eventually what he said was significant and led to the altogether school called conflict school. So he believed that there is an ongoing conflict in the system. पहले ये बात क्लियर हो गई. इज दिस मच क्लियर नाउ. मोड्स ऑफ प्रोडक्शन में क्या क्या चीजें आएंगी फिर. व्हाट इज देयर इन मोड्स ऑफ प्रोडक्शन. बट उससे पहले आई थिंक वी शुड राइट अ फ्यू थिंग्स. वो ज्यादा ठीक रहेगा. साथ में कुछ लिखते चलते नहीं तो पाइल अप हो जाएगा. सो विल टॉक अबाउट लिटिल ऑफ बैकग्राउंड एंड इंस्पिरेशंस टू मार्क्स एंड देन कम टू what are various types of modes of production, historical materialism, and so and so. You can give a heading Karl Marx, and that you can write that. Right. That Karl Marx is often considered as one of the most influential names, one of the most influential names in sociology, which promoted the conflict perspective, according to this perspective, there are inherent conflicts in a given social reality, which turns to be the source of change, अगर कॉन्फ्लिक्ट नहीं होता तो चेंज भी नहीं होता. which turn to be the source of change. This perspective largely has macro view. याद है macro? तो this perspective largely has the macro view of society. Macro view of society, right? Although Marx was not a sociologist, but whatever he explained turned to be very significant to understand various social phenomena. various social phenomena. He was inspired by, he was inspired by, or his writings were inspired by, जो भी लिखना चाहे, he was inspired by following thinkers, following thinkers. First, Hegel. Hegel's dialectic materialism, ऐसा भी कुछ लिख सकते हैं, सिर्फ Hegel लिख सकते हैं, HEGEL. Hegel's dialectic materialism, sorry, Hegel's dialectic idealism. Hegel's dialectic idealism. Hegel's dialectic idealism. Marx was a product of University of Berlin. अब ये सब एग्जाम में तो आपको नहीं लिखना है, but here at least to give some rhythm. Marx was a product of University of Berlin. Product of University of Berlin. In fact, Germany has been the epicenter of emergence of sociology. Product of Berlin, University of Berlin, where Hegel was very popular. Hegel was very popular for his political ideologies. Hegel was very popular for his political ideologies. Hegel was very popular for his political ideologies. For his political ideologies. In fact, just for information, आपको लगे तो आप कोट को यूज कर सकते हो. Lenin once said, "You cannot understand Marx without understanding Hegel." It's a very famous quote. Lenin ने अपने उसमें लिखा था कि अगर मार्क्स समझना है तो पहले हीगल को समझना पड़ेगा. That's why I emphasized the Hegel first कि हीगल क्या कहने चाह रहे थे. So क्या लिखा सर आपने? For his political ideology. According to Hegel, there is ongoing dialectic of ideals. There is ongoing dialectic of ideals. There is ongoing dialectic of ideals. And that is responsible, or which is responsible for change in societies. Change in societies. So history can be viewed by understanding changing ideals. Changing ideals due to its dialectic nature. Due to its dialectic nature. Dialecticism advocates that, एक जहां होना चाहिए, चाहे तो वैसा बना भी सकते हो जैसा the way we made. Dialecticism advocates that every reality has a counter reality. Every reality has a counter reality. कुछ इस तरह से ना. Every reality has a counter reality. Counter reality. Inherently. तुरंत ही आ जाता है. Every reality has a counter reality inherently. To be called as thesis and antithesis. To be called as thesis and antithesis. To be called as thesis and antithesis. And they together synthesize They together synthesize to make a new reality or thesis. They together synthesize to make a new reality or thesis, having new reality or thesis having its counter reality, and so on, having its counter reality. Hegel further added that, I don't know, but ये एक बार इससे में भी आया हुआ है. Hegel further added that whatever the ideals are, whatever the ideals are, whatever the ideals are, result in social realities. Ideals are result in social realities. For example, ऐसे क्लीशे एग्जाम्पल सब वही देते हैं, आप भी लिख सकते हो. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, how house will be built is thought first. भरे पेट में ऐसे ही होता ना. How house will be built is thought first, and then converts in a reality, and then converts in a reality. How house are built is thought first and then converts in a reality. तो पहले सोचा मकान ऐसे बनाएंगे फिर बनाते हैं. बट isn't so naive? मकान बनाने के लिए पहले पैसा चाहिए होता है, isn't it? भरे पेट में ऐसी कहानियां निकलती हैं. जब पेट भरा होता ना तभी ये सब बातें, बड़ी बड़ी बातें निकल के आती हैं. इसलिए आई माइट हैव कोटेड दैट लाइन, वन ऑफ माय फेवरेट लाइंस की, भरी बातें नरम लहजे, भरी बातें तसफ्फुफ लहजे, पहली बारिश में रंग उतर जाते हैं. जब पेट भरा होता तो बड़ी बड़ी बातें सबको समझ में आती हैं. ये होना चाहिए, वो होना चाहिए, डेमोक्रेसी होना चाहिए, यू नो, लॉ, रूल ऑफ लॉ होना चाहिए. सो जब ये सब कोई बातें करो तो इसका मतलब पेट भरा हुआ. ठीक है, इट्स ओके, गुड. सो that's how Hegel believed. Now you can write that Marx partly accepted the idea. Marx partly accepted the idea. Marx partly accepted the idea by saying that there is an ongoing dialectic for sure. There is an ongoing dialectic for sure. Dialectic आप समझ रहे हो क्या होता है? There is ongoing dialectic for sure. तो साहब जो लोग so called disciplined हैं, they should be thankful to me that I am disciplined. If I was not indisciplined, how they would have been disciplined? आप जीते क्योंकि मैं हारा, और वो क्या जीत जो किसी हारने पे डिपेंड करती है. Everything has a dialectic. आप जीतेंगे कब? जब मैं हारूंगा. In fact, this idea has traveled in Germany in the ideas of Einstein also. Everything is relative then. Dialectic की ही बात हो रही वहां भी कि चीजें रिलेटिव कहां हैं, isn't it? अगर आपसे मैं पूछूं कि कोई भी चीज स्पेस में कहां होगी जब तक आप उसको कंपेयर नहीं करो, there is an always ongoing dialectic. तो ये तो मार्क्स ने माना कि yes, there is an always ongoing dialectic for sure. But dialectic for sure, but it is not the dialectic of ideas. It is not the dialectic of ideas. Rather, it is dialectic of material social realities. Dialectic of material social realities. So if you want, you can write this in quote. For him, for Marx, for Marx. It is not the consciousness for Marx. It is not the consciousness for Marx. It is not the consciousness which determines the social reality. It is not the consciousness which determines the social reality. Social reality. Social reality. On the contrary, it is the social reality which determines the consciousness. On the contrary, it is the social reality which determines the consciousness. Social reality which determines the consciousness. Fine. So ये तो एक हो गए कि how he was inspired by Hegel. Next is Feuerbach. Feuerbach. F-E-U-E-R-B-A-C-H. Feuerbach बोलते हैं लेकिन Feuerbach. F-E-U-E-R-B-A-C-H. Feuerbach. जर्मन में CH को वैसा प्रोनाउंस नहीं करते. So Feuerbach. That's what it is. But I told you, I might have told you, those who are not knowing, by the way, I have my own revenge. I have decided I won't pronounce them well. Though I know how to pronounce, yet I won't pronounce them well. Because वो अपने आप को correct नहीं करते. They expect us to be right. I have a friend, and I'm not kidding, it has been more than 20 years of friendship. His name is John. And he still calls me, Sonil, how are you? 20 साल हो गए, 20 साल की दोस्ती है. Still calls me Sonil. तो मैं उसको जान बोल कहता हूँ, John, how are you? He said, what is this? My name is John. I say, I know how to say John, but I won't say John. Why are you not correcting yourself? And we are no more slaves. या तो तुम अपने आप को करेक्ट कर लो, या be ready for this, brace the impact. Brace the impact. And वैसे भी I told him कि ये कोई खराब word नहीं है. That is a very lovable word. No. So, but then even, that's what the point is. हमसे उम्मीद करते हैं राइट प्रोनाउंसिएशन, राइट अप्रोच एंड सो, और आप जो मन करे बोलो, है ना. और तो और बोल नहीं पाए तो नाम ही बदल दो. सुनील को कुछ और बोल दो, सन, सैम, कुछ तरह से. दैट इज सो अनफेयर. सो फ्यूरबैक, सीधे सीधे सी बात. वैसे फ्यूरबैक. सो नेक्स्ट इज फ्यूरबैक. Feuerbach's idea of notion of materialism. Feuerbach idea of notion of materialism. Idea of notion of materialism. Complete name was Ludwig Feuerbach. अगर आप चाहे तो बस सिर्फ Feuerbach. Idea of notion of materialism. Feuerbach, who was a young Hegelian. I told you who are young Hegelians. Following the Hegel's idea, Feuerbach, who was a young Hegelian and a German anthropologist, and young Hegelian, Hegel and then IAN, young Hegelian and a German anthropologist. अब देखिए, आपको वहां पे ये भी नाम भी याद आ सकता है सोशियोलॉजी, सोशल एंथ्रोपोलॉजी में, that how it was that someone like Feuerbach has been instrumental for the Marxist perspective. And so Feuerbach, who was a German anthropologist, in his work, the essence of Christianity, the essence of Christianity, highlighted that reality can be better understood Reality can be better understood. Can be better understood. Can be better understood in its material contexts. In its material contexts. Material contexts. And not. Oh, we are supposed to write an answer also today, huh? चलो. And not. क्या लिखा हमने? And not in terms of ideas. And not in terms of ideas. In terms of ideas. Fine. Marx picked up this concept. Picked up this concept. Picked up this concept for explaining history. Explaining history. History. Fine. चाहे तो लिख सकते हैं, but पर्सनली स्पीकिंग लिख लेना चाहिए. वैसे एग्जाम में तो इसका कोई स्कोप है नहीं, बट इससे थोड़ा सा क्या पता एक सेंस ऑफ एक्नॉलेजमेंट आपके मन में भी है. अगर कोई अच्छा मिले तो उसको कभी कभी एक्नॉलेज करना चाहिए. एंड इन ऑल ऑफ आवर लाइव्स ऐसे लोग मिलते हैं जो दोज हु इम्पैक्ट यू. ऐसे वो जरूरी नहीं कि आपके टीचर्स हो, वो अच्छे दोस्त हो सकते हैं. दे आर देयर. नाउ यू कैन राइट दैट Marx in his famous work, Marx in his famous work, Thesis, Theses, it's plural, Thesis on Feuerbach. Marx in his famous work, Thesis on Feuerbach, acknowledged that how his ideas are shaped by the writings of Feuerbach. Shaped by. तो कभी मन थोड़ा कहते हैं ना कि इट्स वेरी प्रैक्टिकल एडवाइस कि कभी मन भारी लगे ठीक नहीं चल रहा, बाहर निकलिए, किसी की थोड़ी मदद करिए, यू विल फील गुड. ट्रस्ट में, ये बहुत लोकल विजडम है, बहुत काम का है. और शाम को ये अपने आप से जरूर पूछिए, आज किसी की मदद भी की क्या? विल सी दैट देयर इज मीनिंगफुलनेस इन द लाइफ. हाँ, बट वही मैम, इकोनॉमी मेक्स द बेस. अब वो आप जज करो कि अरे इसमें मुझे क्या मिला, तो फिर तो दिक्कत है. ऑलराइट, सो ही रोट दैट. मतलब सोचिए कितना बड़ा डेडिकेशन है, दैट यू रोट अ बुक टू डेडिकेट दैट फेलो कि बॉस आई एम इंस्पायर्ड बाय यू. सो दैट्स हाउ थेसिस ऑफ ऑन फ्यूरबैक. 6 वॉल्यूम है इस बुक की. कितना खाली टाइम रहा होगा मार्क्स के पास. उसे भी ट्रैफिक में तो फंसना नहीं था, तो वी कैन राइट. सो और उस समय नेटफ्लिक्स भी नहीं था. दैट्स अनदर थिंग. हाँ, पता नहीं आपको मालूम है कि नहीं, जस्ट आई एम डाइग्रेसिंग, बट ऑन अ लाइटर नोट, पता नेटफ्लिक्स के सीईओ से पूछा गया था कि हु इज योर बिगेस्ट कॉम्पिटिटर. मोस्ट ऑफ यू माइट बी थिंकिंग हिज आंसर वाज कि Amazon Prime and ये and वो. He said my biggest competitor is that people feel sleepy. अगर लोग सोए नहीं तो ज्यादा ठीक रहेगा. This is how economy makes the base. मतलब he is ready to make you mentally ill for sake of his business. So so this is how we got when we talk about this idea of how he was inspired by Feuerbach. The next is Adam Smith. Adam Smith. Will they be doing it? Because sir is advising that why don't I ask you to write a question after the class? No. So if you want, you have the seats. You can write a question after the class. The hall is empty, so not a problem. नहीं. चलिए, I'm leaving it to you. अगर आप चाहें, मतलब I would be happy if you're writing. We will be discussing this question also. So what was that psychology question? We can give that, Uh, so next, in the next class, we'll understand what is modes of production, historical materialism, these two for sure. And then if time allowed, we'll move towards what is class struggle. Fine. In between, I'm giving you a question. I would be happy if you're writing it. The question is, sociology as a discipline, the statement, I'm saying the question, the statement, ये क्वेश्चन का पार्ट है. द स्टेटमेंट sociology as a discipline stands apart from psychology. The statement sociology as a discipline stands apart from psychology does not hold any merit today. Does not hold any merit today. You have to write in 150 words, 10 marks. I repeat this question. The statement sociology as a discipline stands apart from psychology does not hold any merit today. अब देखिए, apparently जब आप इस क्वेश्चन को पढ़ोगे तो आपके दिमाग में पहली बात क्या है कि it's talking about sociology and psychology. But the question is emphasizing where कि they are no more separate. तो आप ज्यादा फोकस कहां दोगे? How they are getting interdisciplinary. Making sense? So the first part, what is sociology, psychology separately. Second part, how they're intersecting, but more focus should be where? That how they are getting interdisciplinary and how they're useful to help each other that way. So this is what the question is. Let's call it a day today here. In the next class, we'll understand historical materialism and modes of production. You can write question here. There is no class scheduled here. So thank you. And I hope the class was productive for you. Hi, Anna. All right. Thank you.